Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have Hoodoo Sen Moise. We're going to be talking about hoodoo, voodoo, root work, ancestor worship. That's one of the things I've been really interested in, religions that deal in ancestors and spirits that are part of that religion big time, especially with hoodoo and voodoo. So really want to get into that. So I've been really excited as my first guest really into this topic. And it's something I need to learn more about. I want to know more about hoodoo and voodoo and root magic and all that. That's something that I've always been interested in, but I am definitely a non-voice. I definitely don't know, so I feel like I'm going to learn a lot tonight, and hopefully you will too. And you, of course, will be able to call in later in the show. And we always do. Every Sunday night is World Wide Web of Weird, and we got some good stuff for that. So let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another Night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Sen Moise, is going to talk about hoodoo and voodoo. I am so excited for that. For people listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can come watch us at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where you can see the videos and pictures that we share during the World Wide Web of Weird. But it's going to be a lot of talking. This is an interview, so if you just like to listen, you definitely can. You can always go back for seconds and watch more. But let's go ahead and get to my lovely co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, Jason. Really excited about tonight's topic.
I know. We'll get into it, but a lot of people, of course, are thinking, voodoo. Especially voodoo, it's got a lot of dark connotations to it. But they do good work. They do things good. It's just like any other magic. So I want to get into both sides, not just the dark side. I know everybody's attracted to the dark side. Thank you, Hollywood. But there's a lot to it. I know that. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that. All right. And also from St. Augustine, Florida, is our good friend Rob Autry. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Doing great. Looking forward to the show. I'm definitely interested.
Yes, definitely. And like I said, guys, the phone lines will be open later in the show. I'll give out those phone numbers, and you can call in and ask our guest a question. Maybe you are interested in having somebody do some voodoo work for you, right? Get a little doll. No, that's totally, see? There it is, that Hollywood effect. You just think a little doll and needles and stuff, yeah. But we got a lot of good stuff for the World Wide Web of Weird, so let's go ahead and roll in to the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird. If you remember, it's been a long time ago. I know we had one World Wide Web of Weird where we talked about the CIA trying to make remote-controlled cats. Well, guess what? Now, the article's been going around here. This one I got off Unexplained Mysteries, but I've seen it on a number of different sites. I like Unexplained Mysteries because they're short. They're perfect for radio. But, of course, if they did cats, what else other animal would they try to make into a remote-controlled spy pet? The good old family pet dog. Again, those listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can watch, see the videos. We do have some good, interesting stuff tonight, by the way. There's a good triangle UFO International Space Station we're going to show tonight. But you can come watch if you want, but I will try to narrate the best I can. This first one, like I said, comes from Unexplained Mystery. CIA experimented with mind-controlled dogs. Of course, I got it on Rob here. Let's make sure we can. Yeah, I don't know. Are you a CIA mind control dog? No. Okay. All right. Jeffrey Chan runs our World by Bubba Weird. He'll be showing the pictures and video tonight. Newly declassified documents have revealed the CIA's efforts to control dogs through electronic brain stimulation. The research had been carried out as part of a Project MK Ultra. Yeah, everybody's heard about that. And it's like, that's conspiracy theory. No, it's real stuff, people. A secretive program, often illegal, mind control experiments conducted by the U.S. government between 1953 in 1973. According to recently declassified documents released through a Freedom of Information Act request, one of these experiments had involved creating 6 mind-controlled dogs that could be ordered to perform rudimentary actions on demand by human operators. One of the files described a demonstrated procedure for controlling the free field behaviors of unrestrained dogs through the use of electronic brain stimulation. Ugh. Cannot talk. The specific aim of the research program was to examine the possibility of controlling the behavior of a dog in an open field by means of remotely triggering electronic stimulation of the brain. What, you shocked them? I bet that's, they make it so like scientific sounded. They probably just shocking the brain. Such a system depends on its effectiveness on 2 properties of electrical stimulation delivered to certain deep-lying structures of the dog brain, the well-known reward effect and tendency for such stimulation to initiate and maintain a locomotion direction, blah, 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 a lot of science here, which is accompanied by the continued delivery of the stimulation. Enabling such control involved implanting electrodes in the dog's brains and then running wires to the power source and stimulator attached to its harness. From the sounds of it, however, the system was very limited in terms of effective distance and was never actually employed in the field. It's unclear if scientists involved attempted anything similar on a human subject. Oh, yeah. Well, MK Ultra basically was trying to create a remote-controlled person. So no kidding, they wanted to try to do it to poor dogs too. Jeez. I mean, people are like, oh, that's not real. I'm like, there was lawsuits. People sued the government over MK Ultra. Look it up. It was real. Okay. We did some really horrific things to U.S. citizens and some people that weren't U.S. citizens in MK Ultra. All right, let's move on. This comes from the IslanderOnline.com AU. UFO sighting at Cape Willoughby Lighthouse, Kangaroo Island. International visitor Andrew Isaacson inadvertently captured an unidentified flying object while visiting Cape Willoughby Lighthouse on Kangaroo Island. I guess this was Australia, right? He took the photograph of the UFO at 4:25 p.m. on Wednesday, December 5th, in a perfectly clear conditions. Mr. Isaacson now wants to know if anyone else saw anything unexplained flying around the Dudley Peninsula or Kangaroo Island in the past few weeks. Just when I stopped taking photos and moved the camera down, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Whatever it was moved silently and expeditiously, quickly, or expectationally, whatever is that? Quickly, I don't know what he's saying here. He didn't realize he had captured the object on his camera until he got back to his accommodations and started downloading and going through the photos from the day. His only thought was that it could have been some kind of unmanned drone, as it did not move like a plane or helicopter. It said it appeared to be about a football field distance off the shoreline below the lighthouse. I'd be interested to know if anyone else reported a sighting that day. He said Mr. Isaacson was originally from Sydney, but now lives in was interior designer in Berlin, Germany. So he was visiting, saw that. Maybe a drone. I don't know. I mean, it definitely has that kind of UFO shape. You almost got a clear picture, but it's still blurry. Yeah. But it's clear day. Clear day. I mean, definitely got a clear sign of it. But if it's moving so fast, there's no way it's not going to be blurry. Of course it's going to be blurry. If it's moving that fast, so you can really can't make it out. But I don't know. Which I'd be a little mad if it was a drone, because it looks like they could be like coming by to look in his window. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Got a great guest, so I want to get through this. This one, all right, this is from the International Space Station. You know how I love these ones. And, of course, they cut the feed. Triangular craft filmed during docking procedure, Space Dragon capsule, International Space Station. Maybe they didn't cut the feed on this one. I think that was last week's one. But, they probably wanted to. During the live coverage on Saturday, December 8th, International Space Station crew members used the station's 57.7-foot or 57.7-foot robotic arm to capture SpaceX Dragon's spacecraft and attach it to the orbiting laboratory. But during the docking procedure of the Dragon capsule on the International Space Station, suddenly a triangular object comes into the view, moving behind the Dragon capsule until it disappears into space. And it is unknown whether the object originated from the International Space Station or if it was a UFO. The footage of the triangular object looks like the typical TR-3B at the moment it passes the Dragon capsule. And it... some people try to say they thought it was a meteor or something that passed by. I don't know. All right, so I was looking down at my article here, but yeah, I think it already went by. And they're going to show it here zoomed in for people listening. It's you see the capsule and this triangular shaped craft with lights, like red orange lights, kind of fly past it. I mean, you see the body of it almost. You can see the body of it. That's not meteors. That is something.
That's not a meteor.
No, and that is something flying. That's one of the best so far International Space Station UFO footages I've seen. I'm sure there's better. I'm sure there's so many. And they didn't cut the video on that one. That was last week. We talked about that. I think they cut the video on it. I'm sure they wish they had.
That's a perfect shape.
Yeah, they do the whole contrast on it. This you'll find a YouTube video from what is it? UFO. Let me get the YouTube channel here. I'll tell you the YouTube channel. They got a good one that we're showing. This is from Secure Team. Yep, this was a Secure Team course cover.
That's just incredible.
Yeah. So I thought that was some cool footage. All right, let's move on. All right, this next one. This guy's a man after my own heart. I love his style. This is from kget.com. Man puts up sculpture and middle finger as a message to town. Westford, Vermont. A man who is in ongoing dispute with his town has left officials know exactly how he feels by erecting a large wooden sculpture of a fist with a middle finger raised in his front lawn. Ted Pelkey said Thursday that he has been trying for about 10 years to move his truck repair and recycling business to his property, but has been unable to get a permit. He paid about $3,000 to have the roughly 7-foot-tall sculptures carved with a chainsaw. In November, he put it on a 16-foot meter pole, or 16-foot pole with lights where it can be seen from the road. I wasn't trying to get fame out of it at all. I'm just mad, he said. I just got pushed in the corner, and I'm done with it. Since the sculpture went up, people have been stopping by during the day, even at night, to take photos of it and with it. There's some good selfie photos with the middle finger in the background, I'm sure. Oh, God, it's crazy, Pelkey said. People are out there at 11 o'clock at night taking pictures, really, with their Santa hats on and everything. It's wonderful, I think. Late Thursday morning, 3 people pulled off Route 128 to snap photos within an hour, including a woman from Maine who was in Vermont for work. Westford Select Board Chairman Allison Hope said she cannot comment on Pelkey's case. He's appealed a recent decision. But I like his style, I see some people that put these weird signs up in my town. There's a couple different people that do this in my town, like mad at the insurance company, and they say something, but half the time the people that do it are so crazy, I don't understand what they're saying on their little board thing they put up there. I know they're mad at the insurance company or they're mad at this, but I don't. You made a biblical reference, I don't get it. This guy, right to the point. Point.
Direct and to the point.
My kind of guy. All right, let's move on. All right, these next 2 articles are kind of related. I love these stories, This first one is from, where is this site? It's geeksoncoffee.com. All right, and the next story is going to kind of tie with this, too. Fears about a real Skynet mount after rogue Amazon robot sent 24 workers to a hospital. They talk about Amazon having like the horrible working conditions as it is. Now they got AI robots that are like trying to kill their workers. Reports come earlier in the week about a robot going rogue at an Amazon fulfillment center in Robbinsville, New Jersey. It resulted in 24 workers being sent to local hospitals. ABC News reported that the machine burst a can of bear repellent spray that led to the release of concentrated capsaicin spray into the air above the mentioned warehouse. Capsaicin is a natural produced substance which is widely used in pepper spray. I know all about it. I've been pepper sprayed. It sucks. It is extracted from peppers and is responsible for the heat the vegetables they have. After the incident, 24 workers were sent to the hospitals, and one of them was in critical condition. 30 more people had to receive treatment on the scene. It was bear spray, though. I had just regular pepper spray, but like the bear spray version, I'm sure is like 20 times even stronger. These poor people. And they say it was the robot that did it. At Robbinsville Fulfillment Center, a damaged aerosol can spray strong fumes contained in the facility. This is Amazon's statement. The safety of our employees is our top priority. Yeah, we'll skip over Amazon. Where's the robot? This article gets too long. gets into the whole union thing. But they said this robot went kind of berserk. Amazon's automated robots put humans in life-threatening danger today. The effects, which could be catastrophic and long-term effects for 80-plus workers, are unknown. RWDSU President Stuart Applebaum said, "The richest company in the world cannot continue to be left off the hook for putting hardworking people's lives at risk." So this robot went wonky there. And then we got this other story, number 6 in the World Wide Web of Weird. This is even worse. This is, of course, a factory in China. You know, that's not great working conditions, probably. The Sun.co UK has this one. Skewered alive. Factory robot impales worker with 10-foot-long steel spikes after a horror malfunction. All right, so another robot here. Gone nuts this time. 49-year-old man named Mr. Zhao was working on the night shift at a porcelain factory in Hunan province when he was struck by a falling robotic arm. The accident resulted in him being impaled with foot-long, half-inch thick metal rods, the People's Daily reported. He was first taken to a local hospital before he was transferred to Xinga Hospital, I probably butchered that, in Central South University due to severity of his injuries. And people listening, you can't see the picture. You don't want to. This looks painful. This looks so poor guy. He was first taken to a local hospital. No, man, this is not a local hospital deal. They got to get what do they got to say?
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
Get him to the chopper. Take him to the better hospital if there is one. During the operations, doctors found that the rods missed an artery by 0.1 millimeter. Oh my God. I should have shared pictures of the rods. I didn't get those, but man, the rods also prevented doctors from carrying out x-rays before the operation. They were relatively big. Yeah, they're big. So there was no means of getting them fitted. I'm trying to get the part where the maintenance technician was killed by a rogue robot who veered into the area she was working in and crushed her head. Oh, this was another person who was killed. The 57-year-old was inspecting machinery in the area where components were assembled when the robot took Wanda by surprise, entering the section she was working in, court documents filed at the time said. 2015, another car industry worker this time in Germany was also killed by a robot. This is all these different cases. Sorry, I skipped ahead. The unnamed 22-year-old man was part of a team that was setting up stationary robots in a Volkswagen plant. Last year, a construction worker miraculously survived after he was electrocuted and thrown from his workstation, then impaled through the anus by a 4-foot steel bar. That was the other one. Yeah, I almost put that one. That one was brutal. I didn't even have that picture, but that one's brutal. You don't need to see it. Yang Ming, 37, has accidentally touched live wires on a building site, and the shock sent him flying. Well, that's not robots. Don't blame that on the robots. Bad working conditions, yeah. But, are the robots evolving? Imagine you're going to be working. They say, oh, your career is going to change. And if you're a factory worker, more and more you're working with robots, and soon you're going to be talking to them. And you're going to have to deal with...
start killing you.
Yeah, until they start killing you. Like, oh, wait. Here, this is my favorite thing here, and now I can't find it. Because this is what,
I'm sorry, Dave.
This is what we're dealing with.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
I need a bathroom break. I need a bathroom
meaning
break.
a disgruntled
I'm sorry,
employee.
Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Sorry, Dave. I'm going to have to kill
Open the bay doors, Hal. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be arguing with robots. No more will we have to fight with our coworkers. We're going to be arguing with robots. All right, let's move on. But seriously, I mean, and then you get into the whole Terminator thing. I mean, all the it's going to happen.
I'll be back.
We got one more story, and then we'll be back. Okay, one more story, though. This one's really good. All right, so this one is from the Daily Mirror, and I saw this from the mirror.co UK. I saw this on a number of sites, and people are saying ghost. I think even the title of this is, Mom records chilling footage of teen ghost who emerged as she was home alone. People look at this, go to this website. No, I don't want... Trying to read the website, but of course then it decides it's going to do some kind of ad on my tablet here. We can just watch it. I don't know if I'll even get a chance to read the article because it's being stupid.
I'm going to go and look for another bed today. Like maybe a day bed or something. I mean, I have that credit card. I'm not going to buy anything expensive. I'll try like Salvation Army first and see what I can find,
This is the mom talking for people listening.
But I definitely need a smaller bed and one that's up off the floor because it's killing me. And then I'm just going to let Al have this one. I just want it out of here. And he's sleeping on a blow-up mattress anyway. I'm trying to make coffee.
See, there it is.
Coffee.
Now they're saying teen ghost.
It's not really doing me any good.
I'd read the article if the article would let me.
I've been having anxiety, and I think it's from
Alien in your house.
because I made it like really super strong the other day at work. Oh, I like literally from it. So, but anyways, good morning. What are you doing today?
Is there somebody in your house with you?
Now it's going to show a slowed down version.
Why?
See that thing go? That teenage ghost? That looks like an alien. In what way does that look like your average Joe Schmo teenager? Am I that old that you're looking like little gray aliens to me? That's always I wish I could read the article, but literally it's one of those ones that I read the article like a few days ago. It let me, and now suddenly when I want to pull it up, it wants to say, "Congratulations, you won something that we're gonna like totally hack into your phone if you touch this." Come on, mirror.co.uk. Don't sell yourselves out and put an article up and then attach some like you won some crap thing to it. I wanted to read the article, but I can't.
That's why I screenshot it really fast before that stuff comes up and then goes out.
Makes me so mad. I tried to read the article, but so I don't have the whole story of this. I don't remember. I did read the article, but it's now been a few days, so I don't remember. All I know is the title is Mom Records Chilling Footage of Teen Ghost Emerged as She Was Home Alone. Lori Simmons, I got some of the article. I'm reading it through their thing here. Lori Simmons is also open to the idea the dark figure captured in the video could have been an alien. Okay, but she's determined not to move from the house. Yeah, if it's an alien, it doesn't matter where you go. They're going to get you. I'm audience vote. I don't see the chat room right now. I don't. And new things coming to Paranormal Soup. I will start being able to see the chat room easier here coming soon. If you guys think it's an alien, put alien. If you think it's a ghost, put ghost in the chat room. I don't have access to L&M's chat room, so I don't know. But alien or ghost? My vote is alien. Because people listening, they won't know, they can't see, but you got to check this out. If you can get mirror.co.uk to work to watch it, you can find it in YouTube if you put in Mom and Teenage Ghost and just look for recent. You'll find this video. And I still say alien. Every time I look at it, I say alien. I'm trying to get to the chat room.
Deanna says alien. Ricky says not a ghost.
I don't know. It's weird looking. Not like a person. Well, look at it like over her shoulder there in that picture. I don't know. We got to get running into the commercial break here in a second, but I saved this one for last because I just thought this, she seems genuine. It seems maybe, my wife will be like, no, she totally seems fake. But I don't know. I'm just a trusting person, I guess. I don't know. It seems genuine. Like, she's like, what's behind me?
It says in the article they were using an app called Marco Polo, which is like a walkie-talkie app.
Yeah, to talk to each other.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Hear all these people, like using Snapchat and different apps and stuff, and like seeing weird stuff, and stuff that has facial recognition and stuff like that. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, she's talking about anxiety. Like, I got to stop drinking so much coffee. It's giving me anxiety. But like maybe it's the alien walking behind you, and you just were abducted. That's giving you anxiety. Because look at it. That looks like a gray alien. Look at that. Anybody voting ghost on this? I don't know. I guess our video quality is not that great, but that is a gray alien. I swear that's what's caught behind her. This woman needs to get some X-rays. I'm not joking. I'm serious. She needs to get some X-rays, some hypnotherapy sessions. Let's figure this out, because you need to look into this, find out what's going on, because you might have just been abducted. You're like waking up, getting your coffee. Anxiety,
my coffee, my butt hurts a little bit this morning.
I don't want to laugh because it's serious. These people are in danger, in my opinion. They're in danger. They need to know. And something's going on. I mean, throw out the ghost thing. Really throw it out. This to me is something alien, and just captured on. I've seen a lot of people. The Stan Romanek guy. Claim he's getting pictures of aliens. I'm sorry, that look like cardboard cutouts. But you got to wonder. Everybody's got cameras nowadays. These aliens really got to be sneaking by us sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty freaky looking.
I don't know, that last shot, it almost seems like it's, I don't know. But that's it for the World Wide Web of weird. It was weird. But we got a great guest tonight, so Hoodoo Sen Moise. See, I'm a little thrown off. I'm still thinking about that video. Hoodoo Sen Moise. We're going to talk about voodoo, hoodoo, root work, ancestor worship, all that good stuff. And, this is our first guest on this topic, really. I haven't gotten into the voodoo thing. I'm don't know a lot about it, so I feel like I'm going to learn a lot tonight about it. So been excited for this show. Don't forget, I can't even talk now. Don't forget to go Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Donate, subscribe, do what you can. We got a lot of really great hosts on this network. I want you guys to go support their shows. Go check them out. They all got Facebook pages, and they're all posting their shows. I try to share their shows as much as I can. Coming soon, in case you can't stay up late tonight, I do want to mention we are going to have some new announcements for Paranormal Soup. Check out our Facebook page in the next day or so. We'll have some new stuff coming up, and new places we're going to be streaming, like YouTube we're working on. A lot of stuff. We're going to have a break. We won't be back till December 30th. So, all right, let's get to our commercial break because we got a great guest back in just a few minutes.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Hoodoo Sen Moise. Sen Moise is the author of Working Conjure, a guide to Hoodoo Folk Magic. He sees the words of magic as the flowing river. It's a constant that is ever moving and changing and is the balance of the cosmos. It is the balance that the mind opens and the unseen becomes reality, allowing Sen Moise to perceive the truths that are hidden from most. Taught by his grandfather, an old-style southern root worker, to speak with the ancestors as a child, Sen Moise was able to see the spirits by the age of 4, learning to open the door to power, wisdom, and service. He is a servant of the spirit and, in turn, the people. Things seen and unseen are understood by him because of his relationships with those who came before and his connection to the unity of the flowing river. The dead hear his voice, and he hears theirs. Sen Moise is an initiated Padre Nagana, I probably butchered that, in Palo Mambi. He was also initiated into voodoo in Haiti and holds the rank of Hogan Aswagi. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that, I'm sure. He works with both hands and does not subscribe to the concept of good and evil, but rather the concept of balance. He resides in New Orleans and is the co-owner of Conjure New Orleans, a premier hoodoo and conjure shop in the French Quarter of the Crescent City. And man, that's one place I've never been to. New Orleans. I've always wanted to go. I would be like a kid in candy probably going into his store. I would love it so much. But that's who we have tonight, guys. We will have call-in lines, but not yet. Probably after the second commercial break, we'll let you guys call in and ask questions. I'm sure people will. I have questions tonight, of course. This is something I've always been interested into, and I feel I could learn a lot more about. So let's go ahead and get to our guest. You there with us, Moise?
I am. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I gave the intro, but I'd like to, you, in your own words, kind of describe yourself and like tell us the story of how you got involved in hoodoo and voodoo and doing these practices. To me, it's so interesting. I read your bio. This really started with your grandfather.
Yeah, I was raised in this kind of work. Basically, it centers around the sacrifice that ancestors made before us, and basically what Conjure is, and that kind of helps to tell the story a little bit, is Conjure came about in this country during the slave trades, and right. It came about as an answer to an oppression and an ability to give a magical rebellion against what was going on with the slaves. So in that there's always a very strong point when it comes to veneration and it comes to a working relationship with the ancestors. And as a kid, like that's what we, were taught to do.
Right.
That's what we did. Like there was work that we did to make, and facilitate magical change. And it becomes, it's not just a work, but it's also a culture. And so, being raised in that kind of a culture, well, here I am now.
Well, what I always found so interesting too, about voodoo and hoodoo and these practices. You're right; it really did start with the slaves here. I mean, I can imagine, in the situation that they were in, how powerless you would feel, and you needed something to give you the power. Without getting you and your family killed.
Right.
What better way than magic? What better way than magic?
Right. Well, you have to keep in mind that, during those times, they were plucked from their homes and they had nothing when they were brought here but their spirits. And it came about, like they didn't even have, a lot of like the roots and the plants and such that, that they did, at home. So, it came about to where it was basically, you had to, if you did not lean on your spirits, then, that was the only thing that you had. So they were either going to protect you or you were going to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it was an answer to that oppression, and it came about as a need because of what was going on, the horrible atrocities that were happening.
Right.
And there was a need for some kind of an answer to fix that.
Definitely, you got to think it had been some pretty powerful magic going on back in that day, because it had been fueled by that desperation, by that that emotion.
There was right, absolutely. There was a need to overcome and a need to survive. Like they were getting beaten, they were getting raped, murdered, all kind of stuff. So like all these things were going on, and Conjure as we know it today came about as a result of that.
And I love that, especially New Orleans, the stories of Marie Laveau, and
sure,
and then there's the horrific stories. I'm not saying I love them, but they're fascinating. I've totally drawn a blank, but I hate to reference it, but American Horror Story covered it when they did.
Are you talking about Delphine Lalaurie?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I've talked about her on other shows I've been on. Those stories. I'm a big Anne Rice fan too, so I love all that. I feel so ignorant to it, but I've been a big fan of it. Like I said, read all the Anne Rice stories. I've always dreamed of going to New Orleans. I never have yet, because it's so much history there, and so much happened that's so horrific. That these people had, these ancestors had to have been pretty angry. That had to be a pretty powerful force of magic. If they're drawing upon ancestors or seeing what's happening to their progeny, they had to have been some pretty powerful magic.
Well, absolutely, and basically, what it has come to today is it's the practice of magical work to facilitate change. And so Conjure is all about changing a condition, whatever the condition is. So like if somebody they need money, or they need to be healed from healing from something, or whatever the condition may be, it's about using magical work to bring about that kind of a change.
Right.
And it's not limited to to anything really, but that's you could say that is like one of the foundation stones of what Conjure really is
to conjure your change, to make your reality. I mean, you could look at a lot of different more New Age religions that are definitely along those lines, that kind of power, but with hoodoo, voodoo, like I said, what's so fascinating to me is the history of it. And one thing I've always been interested in is ancestor worship, religions that draw upon their past ancestors, not gods or goddesses so much. Some they do, but really focus on their ancestors and giving them homage, and that the ancestors are the force of, I guess, what you want to call power or change.
Of course they are. They absolutely are. The thing about ancestors is that ancestors are spirits that always, they're like your biggest fans.
Yeah.
Because, when they had bodies and they were alive, they were blazing a trail. Now that they don't have a body anymore, you're the one that's doing that. You're the one that's blazing that trail and continuing. So, of course, they're going to be there to do everything that they can to help you to be successful, to help you to do the things that needs to be done so you can continue to blaze that trail that they had started when they were alive, you see. And so, a lot of times folks underestimate, what ancestors can really, really do whenever you have a very strong working relationship with them.
I want to get into that definitely more tonight, but for you, for beginning in this, so, I've heard you have to have like kind of a calling to it. You have to have to like, kind of be chosen, what I've understood about, at least for voodoo.
Voodoo is different. Voodoo and conjure or hoodoo are not the same. They don't come from the same place, and a lot of people get them confused.
Okay.
Conjure in and of itself is not a religion. Okay, let's just get that right on out there.
All right.
It's not a a complete spiritual path or practice. Conjure in and of itself is magic work that relies on the ancestors. There's not really any like worship per se that's going on in conjure. It's magic, strictly magic work. That's what it is. Voodoo, on the other hand, is a complete spiritual path that involves worship and involves, all of these other things that conjure does. And conjure's basically it's just magic work. That's it.
It's like the tool, to use, kind of like. I hate to reference it so bluntly, but it's
well, it's a culture as well, but it's not. But it's not a religion.
Right. Gotcha. But voodoo, is that, how did you get involved in voodoo then?
That involves a calling of the spirit.
That's what I thought.
That's a little
voodoo.
different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you know you were being called to it? I mean, how did that start for you?
There was a spirit that came and saw me, and I didn't know who he was.
Right.
And in the midst of him coming to see me, I wasn't. I knew people that were in the voodoo, but I didn't know much about any of that. And a spirit came to me, and then had said to me, that essentially that my life was going to take a little bit of a different turn and a different path because there was a hand that was on me essentially. And I asked him his name, and he told me, and I was like, I don't know who that is. And so I went to some folks that I knew that were in the voodoo and say, hey, do you know who such and such is? And then they told me, and so I had explained to them what happened, and the rest is kind of history.
So the spirit that came to you, was he a past voodoo practitioner or?
No, it was a Loa.
What is that?
A Loa is like an elevated spirit. If I were to, how you say, so voodoo is a monotheistic practice. So there is God, whose name is Bonji, but God's busy running the universe and doesn't really have time for the petty dealings of man.
That makes a lot of sense.
He gave us the Loa. We're there to help us in our day-to-day life. So you could liken the Loa to, I call them principalities.
Okay.
Kind of like the archangels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're not just a regular spirit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
they're an entity of some kind that wasn't like a human form, at least as far as we know.
Well, some were. Some Loa were human at one point.
Oh, okay. So
not all of them, but
that's what I was wondering. It's like, because I daydream about the afterlife. I've thought about it since I was a little kid and how it works. And I'm a Gnostic, so I'm a spiritual Gnostic, you could say. I question everything except for the existence of an afterlife and a higher being.
Mm-hmm.
I just question what they are. And I think about it, and what always interests me about our ancestors, and you have to think they care about their lineage going down the line. Is that how much they affect when you pass on, do they kind of uphold the religion on the other side in a way? Like there's like a little Christian place you go to when you die, because there's a bunch of Christians that set up this place on the afterlife. Well, there's people that were voodoo practitioners that want to pass it on and choose people to kind of teach from the other side. That's one of the things I've always wondered, like how our ancestors work in all the different religions. And I think voodoo really embraces it.
Oh, absolutely, it does. And that's the thing, is that because of the need for because of the need for these working relationships in the voodoo, like the ancestors, just like in Conjure, because there is some influence in Conjure that comes from the voodoo, because of when all the slaves were together from the different places. Because Conjure, actually, the main root of Conjure comes from the Congo part of Africa, whereas the voodoo comes from Old Dahomey, which in today's day and age, it's the country is called Benin. But the foundation stone of each of those is the veneration of ancestors and the lifting up of ancestors. Not only to make change, but it's also about having that relationship with those spirits, just in day-to-day living, in your day-to-day life. So not only is it there for to help one live as a good a life as they can, but it's also there for when things happen that you need the aid of the spirit to overcome.
My personal belief is that all of our relatives and ancestors are, no matter what religion you're in, are involving themselves in our lives. I've just my personal belief, So that's what always attracted me to voodoo and those cultures, because, like I said, they embrace that, and you wonder, you wonder how much on the other side, like Hoodoo or Sen, I don't know what you want to call you short by, or Moise.
Just Sen Moise is fine.
Moises. All right. Well, when you die, do you think you will go on to be a Lulu, or I'm sorry if I butcher that, but will you be on the other side influencing some other voodoo practitioner, or trying to help them?
Sure. I mean, the thing is that if we excuse me.
Sorry.
If we follow in the footsteps, of our ancestors, and we do the work, of our ancestors, I absolutely do believe that, when we don't have a body anymore, that we come back to, again, help those to blaze the trail. Because what happens when we lose our body, we then become an ancestor, you see.
And you said your grandfather taught you like root work. Did you have, was your grandfather also in voodoo, or is it just root work?
No, root work.
Just root work. But you think you had it in your family or in your blood that kind of brought you to it too?
It's highly possible. I can't say for sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, anything is possible. I mean, the thing is that what happens is that sometimes within all of us there may be some little light, or some little flicker of a flame that a spirit notices. And if that spirit notices, then it's like you being the lighthouse on the edge of the cliff. And the spirits of the boats in the water, they're going to come, and they're going to start coming to see what's going on.
I've always thought of a poltergeist when people talk about that, because like Carol Ann, she is the light to the spirits. That's why they were attracted to her. And you wonder, how many people walking through life are getting spirits because there's something special about them like that.
Sure, absolutely. And that's the thing, is that like, is there a formula for it? No. Is there rhyme or reason for it? No, there's not. But what there is they make decisions that, it's up to them. Now, granted, we also have the ability to make those decisions. We can choose to say no, we can choose to not do it. But that's on us, because even though there may be a calling or what have you, at the same point in time, you still also have a choice as what you're going to do or what you're not going to do.
Well, you in the bio, it said you since you were at least 4 years old, you were seeing spirits. So as a child,
the first spirit that I saw, the first spirit that I saw was an ancestor, and actually she came and visited me. I was on a playground, and we were talking, and and she told me that she's like, well, I'm always around you, even though you don't, always see me, because I didn't know who she was. And then I asked my grandfather about it, and I described her to him, and he told me that that's who it was. And so, from that point is where, things began to, how you say, develop. And so, like that's basically like some people, I know that a lot of, it's a very fascinating thing, but like to me, it was just like, okay,
That's life.
I'm going back on the seesaw now. Okay, thanks.
Well,
I mean, for real.
Well, I had that experience as a child. My what we think was my unborn half sister came to me at about that same age. That I saw in my memory, I still remember. I thought I thought she was a real little girl. Just
Yeah, it's the same with me. It was the same with me. I thought that she was a real lady because I was like, didn't you see that lady over there? He was like, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Kids, they always say, the way that a child's brains work, it's possible that they are able to see this other world. But obviously, you had something in you. Not all kids are seeing dead people. Not all kids are, from the sixth sense or something like that. So I definitely think there's some kids that see it more. And obviously, you were one of them. Did it just kind of continue for you in life? Or you always were seeing spirits?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that began to grow and develop from from that point, and then from there was more like giving like veneration to ancestors and working with them and beginning to develop that kind of a relationship, and then learning about like the sacrifices and stuff like that were made for us by them, because I mean basically look, if the ancestors didn't make the sacrifices that they did, you or I would not be standing here right now. You know what I mean? And that is something that, in my opinion, deserves a great amount of honor and a great amount of respect, simply because it's something that basically it was a chain reaction that ended where you and I stand right now.
All roads lead to here,
Exactly. That's it. Right. And so, that's one of the things that it's like I said, I find that, a lot of folks like underrate it, but in my opinion is one of the most powerful things that anyone can do.
Well, that's why I've always been so interested in any religion that really, like I said, embraces the ancestor worship, and because if there's if there's another side and there's spirits there, that means that's all the people that were before you in your family line might have a care what's going on,
right.
So I've always wondered that, of course, you other religions throw in all other kinds of stuff that might explain away why they might not care. I don't know, but I think spirits do care. To me kind of gets maybe complicated with it is like somebody that's a mix, we're all becoming mixes. I'm Irish and Cherokee, and German, so you have a lot of different ancestors mixing in there for me.
Right. Sure. Absolutely. And, and that's the thing. It's about, like I said, honoring, the sacrifices that were made by those folks, for you to be where you are right now, and the thing is that, once we begin to develop relationships with ancestors and such, and we begin to speak and we begin to become sensitive to them, what ends up happening is that, there is access to all of this wisdom and such that, that they had that can be conveyed, to you as well. So why wouldn't somebody want to do that? That's always been beyond me because so many folks are afraid of that kind of thing. And I say, well, there's really nothing to be afraid of, but okay.
They're your family. Our last week's guest was all about reincarnation but we got in the subject of soul groups, that you belong to like a soul group of people. And I feel there's something at least true about that there are souls out there that, that are alive and on the other side that we're attached to for whatever reasons you might believe, but that they're watching us. You don't even know them. You might not even know who they are.
And exactly, and that's entirely possible. I mean, when it comes down to it, at some point or another, we'll find out for real.
Yep. One day we all will know. We're not able to talk about it here, but
right.
Unless you want to come through on one of our spirit box sessions, please come through and tell us.
Indeed.
That'll be next week. Shameless plug. Not next week, but 2 weeks from now. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yes,
we do live.
indeed.
We do live spirit box sessions on the show, and
Okay.
we give the spirits plenty of time to talk. And people call in for family members to come through and talk.
Right.
And when people really, I feel like some of our best responsive when people called in, not just to willy nilly talk to whatever spirit. When they call in and they're focusing on a loved one that passed on, a grandmother or grandfather, I feel that's when we get the best responses. Because there's an intent and a focus, and I think they do want to talk to them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that emotional strength that's being put into that, of course. It's like issuing a call, to speak with them, and sometimes people get surprised when they talk back.
Yeah, what? People, the other side is facing their own mortality, but it should give them a relief. Like, hey, there's life after death. I saw my own grandmother after she passed. I mean, I saw her clear as day in a mirror while I was at work. And she did that to let me know she was okay because she had Alzheimer's, and I was worried about her. What that would be like on the other side. I believe, I tell people I'm an agnostic, but I am a full believer in an afterlife and a higher power.
Right.
Now, for you, when you started doing this, did you have to be like an apprentice, or like did you have to like train under somebody? How does that work?
Well, for me, I was raised in it, so it was a family thing. So you just kind of like it's things, because remember, it's not just a practice, but it's also a culture. And so, like, when I was a kid, like, for example, if I had to sweep the floor, you sweep the house from the back to the front, because you want to cleanse any negativity that might be, in the house or whatever. And like, you come in, and if you're sick, there's a specific bath that you have to take so you can get better. It's a specific cleansing bath. Just things like that it becomes normal. Because it's not just a practice, but it's a part of the culture. So it's not like, okay, I have to go and I have to practice this now for an hour and a half. You know what I mean? It's not like taking piano lessons.
You're already doing it. You're
right.
doing it all your life.
Right, but that's the thing. It's it's the embracing of the practice and the culture. They come together. You don't really have one without the other.
Right.
They both things become like second nature. And realistically, you're not even thinking about it half the time. You just do it.
But I'm sure there's things you guys kind of in voodoo. I mean, there's got to be certain practices or certain
voodoo is different. I mean, both of them. Yeah, is there like training and stuff? Sure. Yeah. But even in the voodoo, that is also very familial as well. Like once your head is made or an initiation happens, then you have a godparent who begins to teach you about the law. They begin to.
So yeah, you had like a godparent, somebody that kind of like guided you. That's what I was kind of interested in, is like, who guided you? How did that work? What was like your first lesson, in voodoo?
Well, I mean, when my head was made, when I was initiated into the voodoo, my godmother, we would sit down and we would talk about things. And a lot of the lessons that you learn, you learn from stories. And then even more so than that, you learn from ceremonies, because voodoo, just like Conjure, is very, very hands-on. It's not about theory and this and that. It's about doing. So I learned most of what I know from ceremonies and just sitting and listening when people were talking. Like when my elders and stuff would talk, you can bet your ass that I would be just sitting there listening. That's what I would be doing. And then, and then later I would ask questions about specific things that, would better my understanding of what was going on. But go ahead.
I was say, well, like the rituals, so they all kind of have their different stories and all that, but what are the rituals like? What do you think they're built on? Like, where do their foundation of these rituals come from?
A voodoo ceremony?
Yeah.
a voodoo ceremony is called a fete, a party. What a voodoo ceremony is, in a nutshell, is giving a party for the spirits.
Yeah, I've seen the
It's a
documentaries on
dance.
it. Yeah, I've seen it. That's what I find really interesting. So it's like like it seems like they're calling on the spirits to come. You know, like join
Absolutely,
the party.
of course.
Yeah.
Because what a ceremony is, it's a party for the spirits, but what it's also about, it's about communion with those spirits, which is why we have possession in the voodoo. The spirits will come down and they will, take possession of. In the voodoo, it's called a shwal, or a horse, and then they'll commune with with everybody at the ceremony, or whoever they want to, actually. But
But yeah, well, that's what I find interesting, because I've never been to a voodoo ceremony, but I did go to a Christian group in town that believed in speaking tongues.
Okay.
And I've always found some similarities there, because they're calling upon the Holy Spirit, and you guys are calling on the spirits. And when I saw them doing it, and I've seen the documentaries on voodoo, of course they're documentaries, but I found, to me it was very familiar to the same thing that I saw when people were speaking in tongues. Very, not the same, but very similar. And like I said, the idea that people are calling on spirits, are having this. I mean, these people, I fully believe they're having this experience. I don't think anybody's faking anything. Why would you waste your time?
Sure.
The emotion is there. To me, that's something incredible is happening here, right in front of us. With these ceremonies. What did have you had that experience where you felt something indwell inside of you, the spirit? That's just fascinating to me.
Are you talking about possession?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not. When possession happens, the horse that's being ridden, the person, you don't remember anything that's going on, because basically there's some things I cannot get into because of initiatory secrets and such. Gotcha. But I'll tell you in a nutshell what happens is that one spirit pushes out another spirit and takes the vessel to ride like a horse, so to speak.
And for the spirit, it's kind of its way of getting a moment of life, to feel what it's like to be alive again. Do you think that's why they, maybe some reasons for
they
them
do
to
it for all kinds of, they do a lot of reasons. They go because they have things that they want to say to some of the people. Some of them have, they want to eat something. Some of them want to drink something. Some of them, there's all kinds of reasons. Like they'll come and somebody may need healing that's there, and they'll come and they'll do healing on them.
Oh wow! Somebody
may need to be scolded that's there, so they'll come and tell them about themselves. Yeah, I mean, but that's what happened, because again, it's very, very familial. So it's one of those things that when you get right down to it, it's like being in a family. It's like being in a big family, and that includes the spirit. They are part of the family.
I just picture like George Costanza's father coming through, possessing somebody like,
right.
It's Festivus, and I got things I have to, you wrong me this way,
Right.
I guess, yeah, but that's, that to me, that's something incredible, that they come through and they, they speak through people, and they, they perform these, healings even. To me, that's a draw or an interest to me. I'd love to be able to see, that happen. Do these practices, are they open to the public? Is it like an open church, or is it all kind of
a voodoo ceremony? Yeah, a voodoo ceremony is open to the public. 99% of them are. There's a few of them that are not, but the majority of them are open to the public. Anybody can come to a ceremony. That's just the way that it is, because the ceremony is not just for the spirits, but it is also for the people. Yeah, it's also for the people. And one of the things that happens in the voodoo is that we're honoring the spirits and having a party for the spirits, but we're also feeding the people. We're feeding each other, you see.
Yeah.
So so there's. It's not something that's like necessary. Like I said, there's a couple of ceremonies that are closed off, but most of them are public, and anybody can go if they want to.
Of course, back in the slave days, that I'm sure they had to be very secret.
Well, that's a big part of why there is a Catholic influence in the voodoo.
That's the other thing I noticed. Like I said, I'm a non-voice to voodoo, but I do know that you do see a lot of the Catholic Church's influence in it. What are some of the things that are the biggest like call outs to like, oh yeah, that definitely was adopted from probably missionaries trying to force the religion on the slaves?
Well, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't. It was a forcing, but it wasn't. What it was basically because at the time during the Middle Passage, when the slaves came over to Hispaniola, it was predominantly a Catholic country, and it still is today. Haiti is, it's 80% Catholic, 20% Protestant, and 100% voodoo.
They're all those things, but they're still doing voodoo.
Oh yeah, you better believe that. Oh yeah, of course. And so when they came over, when they were plucked from their homes and dragged, over here, they had nothing but their spirits. And so they would try to honor their spirits and such, and they would be beaten and, killed and all this other stuff. But they would allow them, to be around like the Catholic Church and stuff, like to be around Mass and stuff. So what would happen would, like, in the Catholic churches, there's always all these like pictures and statues and all this other stuff. So they look around. Yeah, the saints. Yeah. And so they would look around and they would see, for example, they would see a painting of Moses holding the serpent staff. And, that would remind them of a Loa whose name is Dombala Wedu, who is a big snake, a big serpent. And so they, and then, they would see like the Mater Dolorosa or whatever, which would remind them of another Loa whose name is Ezulifreda, and what they would do is they use the Catholic saints as a mask to honor their spirits. So whenever the slave masters would come around, they'd be like, "Oh, we having a mass for for Moses or whatever," you know what I mean? And so and that was how that was a way to get around the atrocities that was going on.
Well,
and so
the irony of that is how much the church itself adopted stuff from pagan religions, to try to appease the masses. And
well, God forbid that we have a double standard,
right?
Just saying. Yeah.
But such incredible history with that, the building of that do you call voodoo it's a religion, right?
You can call it I hate the word religion, but what I call it is a spiritual path. But you could call it that. By definition, sure.
A lot of bad connotations with when you say the word religion. Like I said, I say it myself. That's why I say I'm agnostic half the time when people ask me what I am, because I could never tie myself to one religion. But I'm always interested in other religions. One thing that comes to mind is I love Buddhism, and one of the authors of Buddhism is a monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. I probably butchered that. And one of the things that makes me think of when you talk about people and their ancestors, he would always tell people, "Oh, you're interested in Buddhism. This is great, blah blah blah, but go back to your roots." You can get interested in Buddhism, but you need to go back to your roots. What is your family's religion? What is, look into your religion, look into your family's past and history. Like, he's almost telling people, you got to honor your ancestors too.
Sure.
Now for, practicing voodoo and learning how to do it, when was the point where you got to where you're like, I'm going to, of course, there's conjuring. But when you're actually going, what are you do you use voodoo in any ways, or just a religious practice? Is it also used in its own way as a conjure?
You mean, is there magic work in voodoo?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Of course there is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between that and conjuring? Like the magic of voodoo and the magic of conjuring?
Conjure comes from a different place than voodoo, so some of the work is different. Like I said, there's a lot of similarities in some of it, but there's also a lot of differences. It just depends on what's going on and what the work is, because again, with Conjure, there was influence from some of the slaves from Dahomey during that time, which did bring a bit of an influence into the practice here. But by and large, like the two things are different, and the ways of working for some of those things are equally as different. You know, it's not something that a lot of times, see, one of the problems is that like the media and Hollywood and all that other stuff,
Usual, yeah.
they try to put the two things together, but they're not. They're different.
I'm sure they get it wrong all the time.
Of course.
I'm so ignorant.
Well, people, you'll hear people say that, you know, voodoo is the religious side, and hoodoo is the magical side of voodoo, which is complete. That's a complete false, you know, a complete falsehood. That's not true at all, because they're not the same.
Yeah, and I've heard that exact statement. Oh yeah.
Of course you have. Mm-hmm.
There's two different now. Hoodoo. You said conjuring. What is hoodoo? Is that separate from conjuring, or
no? They're the two terms are synonymous.
Okay, that's what I
realistically.
Sure. Okay.
Like when I was a kid, they didn't really call it conjure. They didn't really call it hoodoo. It was just called work. That's all it was. It was just called work. That's it.
Because you know, I mean, it's like it's another tool to get something done, basically.
Yep. Because remember, it's about facilitating a magical change to a condition so that that condition no longer remains the same anymore.
Gotcha. So you started doing, you know, work in hoodoo and in voodoo. What were some of your beginning, like, first, I don't know what you want to call them, spells or like magic work that you did that I don't want to say convinced you, but you knew you were on the right path when you're doing it?
Well, one of the first things that typically is taught is how to do cleansings, and in both conjure and in the voodoo, spiritual baths are something that we do a lot of. Taking a spiritual bath to change conditions, and cleansing, you know, is one of the most important things that anybody can do, because, you know, as you're, you know, moving out, you know, through the day, people, how you say, they have a tendency to like leave like their own, you know, negativity or whatever around, and sometimes it can stick to other people.
Oh yeah.
So it's always important to maintain cleansing on yourself. So those were probably one of the first things that I learned how to do was make a cleansing bath, and that I learned when I was a kid. Because I had to take them all the time. So
around a lot of well, you know, I say, you know, talk about we talk about cleansing and stuff. Being I'm a paranormal investigator, because I mean, you talked about when you had the, you know, your voodoo experience and being indwelled or having a spirit come into you and not remembering it. I've had investigators have that experience on an investigation we call a walk-in experience, and not remember, like, their personality changes and everything, and not remember what happened to them. Don't remember doing what they did, you know. So this is, to me, the same exact thing that happened to you at a voodoo I don't know, call it party or what you call it, but to me, same thing. And, you know, we have to learn how to like cleanse ourselves. What's the bath? What do you use in the bath? I've told people to take Epsom salt baths, clients, to help clear their energy. What's your bath?
Epsom salt's good. A very simple bath to do. Is taking hyssop, rue, and agrimony, and boiling it into a tea and putting it into the bathtub, you know, drawing a bath and putting into the tub and washing in that. It's a very simple one, but it's also a very potent one to take.
So it just clears your energy and gets rid of anything, either spirits,
things that may be sticking to you.
Yeah. Things from other people, not just spirit world. Like you said, people give off this energy and it sticks to you. I know I've felt that. I always say, you know, yeah, I believe that people are empathic. I know I am. I pick up things from people. I get vibes and stuff. I feel like I need to take some kind of ritual bath to get off of me. You know,
absolutely.
You definitely have had that more than a number of people. you know.
Absolutely, and you're right, and you're right. You know, especially like you who say that that you're if you're empathic, there's a tendency for those sorts of things to kind of like build on you if you don't cleanse it off of you. Because sometimes, with empaths, they take in, what somebody else is feeling or whatever. They take that into themselves, which is why I thank God that I'm not an empath. But
I'm the type of person that, like, when somebody's angry at me, I feel sick. Like when I'm around them, that's how I know they're angry at me. It's like I'm getting the vibes. It makes me nauseous.
Right.
So yeah, I need more cleansing. So what's the names of were they roots or herbs or what is it that you were using that you have to boil? Sorry.
Rue, agrimony, and hyssop.
Hyssop. My wife would probably know what all three of those are, but I'm totally, like I said, ignorant to all that. I am not a magical person. I couldn't remember how to put all that stuff together. I definitely would need a book like Voodoo for Dummies or Hoodoo for Dummies, because I'd be a totally dummy. I'm like, what was that root again? But it's these are things people have been using for what you think thousands of years, right? I mean, it comes from the African culture. These kind of rituals.
Well, I mean, people have been doing like baths. I mean, you can take it back to biblical times, and such, and you can look there and you can see like where someone had to dunk into a river 7 times, to get rid of a condition, or like that's been going on, forever. Spiritual baths that's nothing new.
No, that's what I mean. It's been going on for thousands of years,
Right. Right.
Now, in the bio you said you don't believe in good and evil. You believe in balance, but do you believe there's like demonic like entities or dark entities that you have to maybe cleanse yourself from?
Well, of course. I mean, anything can be positive or negative. But in that part in the bio, what I was referring to was spiritual work in that way, because there's a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's what they call black magic or or white magic or whatever stupid term that they want to use, which has nothing to do with with what we're doing. And it's not about the thing is that like the whole good and evil thing, those are relative. It's like what one would consider evil here, if you go on the other side of the world, they may consider it to be good. It's like, like this may be a shrewd example, but, like over here, everybody loves puppies. Well, if you go to like, to, I believe it's Korea, they like them too, but they like them like a lobster.
Tastes like chicken.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. And so like those kind of things are very relative to, to where someone is and such. And so, your basis of what is good and evil is, just based on, what your own stance is on whatever particular subject that may be, in the air at the moment.
Well, the voodoo probably has to depend. I mean, I'm sure there's been some bad people, just like there's bad people in any religion, It doesn't matter where you are. There's got to be bad people in voodoo, and that's where you got to kind of get some of that that ideas from, because everybody's attracted to the dark side. Everybody's interested in the darker stuff. Nobody cares about the voodoo guy, healing people or doing good miraculous work or something like that. No, they want to know about the voodoo queen. It's cursing people.
Right, of course.
Everybody pictures the doll with the pins. Sure. That's another thing. Is it like Hollywood? Is it very like about like sympathetic magic, having to have like hair or having items to like focus on or use in the rituals? Or
if you're doing work, I mean that's something that is needed. I mean, because the thing about it is that those things establish a link or a connection. So that would be like if you're giving a job to somebody and you say, go over there and and talk to Dan, and you don't tell them who Dan is, and there's 100 people over there. You gave somebody a job to do, they have no idea where to go to do it. It's the same thing.
It's like giving a bloodhound a scent.
If you're going to give somebody a job, tell them who it's for.
Yeah, I got you.
So that you know what I mean. And so it establishes a link so that the work can be done. on whoever it is that that is needs the work done.
Well, like I
So
said, the most classic Hollywood example, like I said, is the doll with the pins and needles and stuff like that. Are dolls even used like that at all in voodoo?
in voodoo, no.
Okay.
That's not a thing that we do in voodoo, which is funny. They ironic because they call it a voodoo doll, but we
Yeah,
don't use it.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not even used
No.
in voodoo.
No. No. It's not used in voodoo. In Conjure, yes, a doll baby is used. But again, remember they come from different places.
Yeah.
So in Conjure, yeah, the doll baby can be fixed and used, but we don't use them in voodoo. No.
See, and they should have called it a conjure doll, but no, it sounded a lot cooler to be a voodoo doll. Everybody knows a voodoo
because
doll.
Exactly, because
somebody told me that long ago.
Hollywood
There's like
had
there's
to make
no
money off of it.
Somebody told me that a long time ago. There's no dolls in voodoo like that. Like
that's true.
Yeah, and it's like I love a good horror film and a good paranormal cultish film and stuff, but they're getting all this stuff so wrong half the time. That's why I do this show, is to have guests on you to help us get a better idea, because I know I'm stupid to it. I would still love them more and more. And you've written a book on this. Now, is this book out yet, or is it available for purchase?
Yep, you can get it wherever books are sold. You can get it from Barnes & Noble. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it wherever.
All right, we'll make sure we plug that book again too later in the show. I mean, because for myself, I have a lot of books back here. I have books that have some stuff about voodoo and all that. I don't have any book just straight on hoodoo or voodoo practices. And like I said, I feel so ignorant to it. But it's right up my alley of a lot of my beliefs and about how reality works. I think are some of the best examples are what's in voodoo, because I really believe spirits are interacting with us every day. I really do. And like I said, voodoo and hoodoo, this culture embraces it. And that's what's so interesting to me, is how that works in that culture, in your society, in your everyday life. That,
sure.
Are you in your life when you wake up in the morning, are you talking to spirits?
Well, of course. I mean, here's the thing. When you have a relationship with spirits, you're always talking. Like all the time, you wake up, you have conversations, you make prayers, you make petitions, whatever may be going on. And excuse me.
No, sorry.
And throughout the day, you're having conversations with your spirits, because it's just like, it's just like me and you having a conversation, like talking back and forth. They're always walking with us. So why wouldn't we be talking to them,
Yeah, that's what I've always found so interesting about any religion that that embraces ancestor. You call it ancestor worship, or I don't know how you. I mean, if you actually are worshiping your own the ancestors, or how you phrase it, but basically a belief in ancestors and their influence in our lives.
Well, that's the thing, is that that influence. What does it do? What people should understand is that whenever you're walking with your spirits and such, what's going on is, they're leading and opening up roads for you, opening up opportunities for you. Because remember, like specifically with our ancestors, like they are our biggest fans. They want us to be successful in every single thing that we do. So, they're going to open up opportunities and open up roads for us to actually do that, so we can continue, like I said before, to blaze, that trail of success while we have a body,
And what makes it so powerful is that you recognize it and you're asking for their assistance. I think our ancestors are trying to help us, but they might need some permission from us too, right?
Well, of course. I mean, again, we always have a choice in the matter. We can, just like if somebody comes and knocks on your door, you can choose to let them in, or you can choose to not let them in. It's up to you. And whatever you decide to do, that's on you.
Now, when you practice this, I mean, it is like it's an everyday part of your life. How often are you petitioning your ancestors, to help you in your life?
Always.
I mean, is it something you like for do you? That's what I'm wondering. It's like how much do is it like? Do I save I want something this really bad. Do I save petitioning my ancestors just for that, or I'm going to petition them like, hey, I want a better cup of coffee from McDonald's. I keep screwing up my coffee. You know,
Well, like that you know, sometimes you know, like that stuff like that is like very insignificant. You know, like that's something that's like when you're talking to your ancestors, you're petitioning them for growth and for opportunity and for, you know, for change, you know, to continue to come, you know, into your life that brings things, you know, together. You know, it's not like, you know, some of those insignificant things, you
that's
know,
what I
to
mean.
where,
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
if you're going to use them, you better be doing it for a purpose that's going to be impactful.
well, say that one more time.
So, I mean, I would think if you're going to petition your ancestors, you want to do it for something that's going to be impactful to your life, like super change, you know, like.
Because remember, we have our life should be about continual like growing and, you know, helping other people as well as helping ourselves, doing things so that, you know, so that there's, you know, meaning, if you will, attached to it. You know, having meaning in one's own life is a very potent motivator. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no, totally. Well, we're gonna go to commercial break, so I'm gonna hold you there on that because when we get back, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about you know, what your work is for other people, because obviously people come to you, right, to do spells for them. You know, you petition on their behalf.
Right. Right.
So I want to get into that, like some of the work you're doing, you know, as a practitioner. When somebody comes to you, I want to get into that. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting stories with that. All right, guys, when we come back, we'll also open up the phone lines. I'll give out the phone numbers here soon. You can call in the show, ask Moise any question you know, relevant to what our topic is tonight, of course. So we'll have the phone lines open. We're listening. If you're listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, don't forget we're a webcast. You can watch us, but go ahead and still listen. And for people, go donate, subscribe. Go to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network.com. A lot of great hosts on this network. We need your help to keep the network going. And go check out these shows we have on L&M. There's so many good hosts. Go to they're on Facebook. They're on the website. You can check out these shows there. All right, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
It's showtime.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Sen Moise. We're talking about hoodoo, voodoo, conjuring, ancestor worship. This is something that, you know, I've always been interested in, but don't know a lot about. I feel like I'm learning a lot tonight, and there's more I want to learn about this subject. But you can call into the show tonight if you have your own questions. I got some guys that call in with some really good ones, so go ahead and call in. We will just wait for us to call on you. You'll hear us talking, and then I will call on you, and you can ask your question. All right, so there's a couple ways you can call in. Their phone line is 219-230-4444, or you can call in by Skype, and the Skype IDs are as follows. There's OOJBland00. That's OOJBland00. And then there's also the J Bland Paranormal Soup Skype line. Both of those are audio only. And you can also call in by video, and the audience can see you. That is Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. You can call in on all those lines, or the old-fashioned way, 219-230-4444. We will take your questions. But let's get back to our guest. You still there with us, Moise?
I'm here, yes, indeed.
Now, you practice, you know, being are you like, I don't know, what do you have like an official title as a practitioner or in voodoo?
In hoodoo, I'm a root worker. I mean,
root worker.
In hoodoo, in voodoo, I'm a priest.
A priest.
So
okay. All right. So doing this, you have people that do come to you for different reasons, for help to work magic for them. How does that work? And what are some of the things you've done for people?
Well, typically when somebody comes to me with a condition, most of the time the first thing that we will do is we'll do a reading on it to see what's going on with whatever the condition may be. From that point, then it'll be decided if I'm going to do work for them or not. And then if I do work for them, then we begin. What have I done? What kind of work? I've done all kinds of work for people.
Bet.
I mean, Lord, I mean, I've done everything from, cleansing to stopping enemies to road opening work for opportunities, prosperity work, healing work, all kinds of stuff.
Well, if I were to come to you, I'd be like, all right, Moise, work me some voodoo or hoodoo and help me get the show going. I mean, is that something you could do? Like, help me, like help grow the show, bigger audience. Like if I want, would magic help me in any way?
Well, sure. I mean, there's things that can be done, to open those doors. There's things that can be worked, to like open opportunities for that. One of the things that people have to understand when it comes to spiritual work is that, it's not like, I do the work and you're just like sitting on the couch and it falls in your lap.
That's the American way, buddy. That's the American way. That's what we want.
Exactly. But that ain't what you gonna get.
You're right.
But it's about doing the things necessary to help with, because the thing is that the way that spiritual work is done, the example that I'll give you with that is that we always go back to the crossroads. I mean, first of all, the crossroads is one of the most powerful and potent places ever, because it is the meeting place where the spirit and the physical come together. Okay, and when you're thinking about spiritual work, it's like taking two mirrors and putting on one side of the crossroads and one on the other side. Those mirrors are facing one another. And what is reflected in the mirror of the physical will manifest in the mirror of the spirit. And what is reflected in the mirror of the spirit will manifest in the physical. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally.
You do what you're doing on one side is manifest on the other and vice versa. Which is why when it comes to spiritual work, like I said, you ain't just sitting on the couch waiting for a bag to drop out the sky.
But that's still the American way, and it. Like,
oh, of course it is.
So I'm sure you have to really like educate your clients then a little bit about what they're going to have to do.
Of course, like, and when it comes to that, one of the first things that I always tell people is that, you have to be, willing to do your part in the work, and that's just the way that it is. Because the thing about any spiritual work, whether it's a cleansing, a healing, whatever, there's still changes that we have to make, and there's still things that we have to do so that we can be open to receive, the benefit of that work.
Right.
You see.
So, I mean, when you said you do a reading, what kind of reading do you do? Is it? I mean, do you guys do? I've seen some. I mean, of course, here's my Hollywood references. I've seen them like use playing deck cards and stuff like to do a reading and stuff like that. Yep. Is that like tarot or?
Personally, I read with playing cards. I read with tarot cards. I read with what's called chomalongos, and I read with cowrie shells. Just depending
on the the feeling you get, maybe. It
just depends on what's going on.
Yeah, I did a little bit of back in the day tarot reading, and I wanted to try to do it with a deck of cards. And man, some of the best readings I ever gave were just with a regular deck of cards.
Right.
I don't know why. I just felt I didn't feel like it at the time, but they came out. Some of the stuff I said in those readings came out to be pretty true for the people I read for. So
and
yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I do card readings. I'm really curious about the cowrie readings. How you read the shells.
Well, that's done. That is done with. There's a what's called a tablero, or a small table that has certain things that's on it, and the way that the cowrie shells fall, where they fall, if they're up or if they're down, basically kind of begins to tell a story. And
Okay.
when that kind of a reading is done, typically that's done more like on the for at least the way that I do it is done more on the spiritual side of things than the physical. Although that will come up in it as well, but that's a type of reading that we do in Palo Mayombe.
What I've always find
That's something I'm going to want to look into. That's really interesting.
what I always find interesting with either cards or with runes or with I can't even say the name of what you guys talk about for the show, but all those things, it seems like spirits are able to affect randomness in some way to pass on messages is what I've always wondered. The random draw of cards or the random fall of whatever runes or I can't say what did you call those again? I'm sorry.
The cowrie, but it's
shells?
not
Cowrie
random.
shells.
Well, no, but
Right,
it's something they can
it's
affect
not
it.
necessarily a random thing. It's what it's more is there's a message that's given.
Yeah.
Within the dropping of the shell, there's a message that's given with the dropping of the card.
But that's what I
Like
mean. I
with
see.
numerology, there's a message with the numbers you're getting.
What I always find amazing about it, though, is that I think spirits are able to affect randomness. It should be random. If I drop something, it should just scatter out and be a random. There shouldn't be no message in there, but there is. I've read tarot. I believe in these messages. So it's like they're able to affect randomness. Like they're the magicians that are going to make you pull out that card, that Ace of Hearts you were thinking about. I mean, like they're able to affect randomness in some way. Is what I've always wondered.
Well, and the thing is that you have to like with divination stuff, understanding that those are it's a tool. That is a tool for for the reading, and when you're talking about divination, like that's a tool for for the reading, and understanding how to use the tool is really what opens up. And what I mean by understanding how to use the tool, what I'm talking about is like having an eye and an ear for your spirits, because they're the ones who are going to speak through it.
Right.
And that's where the whatever the message, the respective message may be, comes through for that individual at the time. And so as we continue with that, and as we grow in that, what ends up happening, it's like anything, if you continue to do something, continue to exercise it, what happens is that those things start coming easier and easier. And truth be told, some of the best readers that I've ever met don't use anything.
They're just able to communicate through it, Like, well, we've had a lot of mediums on this show, and a lot of them talk about having symbols they see in their mind's eye. That's the spirits use symbolism and images of their own memories and that to communicate. And they're teaching you their language, is what I've always felt is something along those lines. We do have a phone call I want to get to. It's been on hold here. If you're all right taking a phone call.
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How about yourself?
Doing great. Glad you called in. You always have really great questions.
Yep, I have two questions tonight. Sen, it's very nice to meet you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing pretty good. My first question to you, Sen, is when you come into contact with spirit, whether it's personal for you or it's on behalf of a client that comes in to see you, what do the spirits usually want over in return for really anything that's being asked?
Are you talking about for like doing work for somebody?
Yeah, that usually like what kind of what really will the spirit get out of the interaction? Like if somebody's asking for really guidance on how to maybe generate more revenue for their business, what would the spirit then ask in return of that individual who's making that request?
Well, the thing is that it always depends on on the type of work, and it also depends on the spirit themselves. There's all kind of things that they'll want, and if I'm doing work for somebody, I take care of that for them. I mean, it can be Some spirits, they'll want like, a bottle of whiskey and, and a cigar. Some spirits are going to want a chicken. Some spirits are going to want a meal. Some spirits, that are going to want money. There's all kinds of different things that they may ask for. But you brought up a very good point in that when it comes to working, with spirits, if you give something, you take something. If you take something, you give something. So there's always going to be, an offering or something of that nature that has to be given in order for the spirit to actually do the job for you.
Okay. And definitely on that whiskey and cigar, I'd definitely be the guy who would hook you up
Right,
for that.
no kidding, Zach. Zach's got plenty of that.
Yes, indeed.
And my second question to you, brother, is what has been the toughest case that you have ever taken on? And really, how did that experience make you grow as a practitioner of hoodoo?
Always good question, Zach.
That's a very interesting question. I can tell you that one of, like the first example, or memory, I should say, that comes to mind was I had somebody come to me one time who had a bunch of lumps in her breast. And it was somebody that I know personally. It wasn't like, it was somebody that like I had already, had a connection with that I knew personally. And, she was beside herself because, she had to have a biopsy done because they thought that it was cancerous. And
it's terrifying.
And so it was very difficult dealing with, because I know her, you know what I mean? So like having that connection was very challenging. And so she came to me and I started to do work for her immediately because she was going to have it biopsied. I think it was like 2 weeks. I think it was that she was scheduled to have it biopsied, something like that. It was like 10 days or 2 weeks. And so working with her like through that, because, having just basically sitting there with those thoughts going through your head about like, having these lumps that, that can be cancerous and all that, that was like a daily thing, like with her, would talk to her and call her and, work her through it while I'm doing work for her at the same time. Well, turned out that, she went and she had the biopsy done and everything was fine, thank God. But for me, like the emotional side of that was a very, very trying time because, I was afraid for her too. And it's like I said, it was somebody that I knew, a friend of mine. So, that made it more challenging for me because, there was also, like the emotional and the nurturing side, of that I had to, to be a part of, just to make sure that she was going to make it through that because, like I said, all she was doing was just sitting around, hoping and praying that she didn't have cancer in her breast. So
long, you got 2 weeks or a long 2 weeks when you're waiting to find that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in.
Hey, no problem, brother. And thank you much, Sen, for answering my question, man. I love hearing
Absolutely.
what you're saying.
All right, Zach, you have a good night.
Right,
I got
guys,
somebody else
good
calling
night.
in too. All right. But, you have to have some kind of focus when you're doing these rituals. You have to mentally focus yourself.
Well, of course. I mean, you have to be focused on the task at hand.
And I can see how hard that'd be if your friend's life is on the, you feel like your friend's life is on the line for it a little bit. And
Right.
Trying to, I can see how hard that would be.
Right. It makes it
emotionally invested,
Yeah, it makes it definitely a lot more challenging than because like because I have people like that that call me all the time to do work for them, or they call me all the time for readings and stuff like that. So I mean, I can do that, all day long. It's different though, for me at least when it's something significant like that and the person who's calling is somebody that's a little closer to me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Zach always has really great questions.
Those were good questions.
Yeah, they were. We got another phone call on the line we'll take here. Who do we got on the line?
Sure.
Dirk?
Yes.
Hey, how you doing tonight, Dirk?
I'm working, bud. So, I guess I have a question for you. Actually, it's kind of like two, but
It's fine.
you're talking about like the voodoo doll that isn't really actually attached to like, the voodoo thing there, but is there such thing as like curses? Do you do like curses? And if you do, why would you do the curses?
So you beat me to my own questions.
Or is that something like it's a TV type show type thing that Hollywood throws in there?
Something I wanted to get into tonight too. Yeah, definitely. Our curses are a real thing.
They are.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. There is both positive and negative work. Everything that we do is about balance. And in order to be balanced, you have to know how to what we call work with both hands. Sometimes negative work is necessary for what's going on. And I'll just put it to you like this. Let's say that you're in your house and you sleeping in your house, you and your family's in your house and y'all sleeping, and somebody breaks into your house and they're coming to harm you and your family. Are you going to sit there and just wish them well?
No,
or are
I'm
you going to
locked and
make sure
loaded.
that they don't? Exactly. That's why. So if somebody comes into my house like that, they ain't getting out.
Nope.
And so what I mean by all that is that sometimes doing negative, things is necessary for the greater picture. Everything is about justice. Everything is about balance. And in order to have balance, you have to know how to work with both hands. Because this whole turning the other cheek thing don't work for me.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. For voodoo, it doesn't seem like you guys believe in the turn the other cheek, at least from what I've seen perspective wise. If you're able to curse people, but you're saying is it's a to people put a negative connotation on it, but sometimes it's just like having that firearm. It's a way of protecting yourself.
It's sometimes it is necessary.
Necessary.
And that's the thing is that sometimes you can't answer something negative that may be done to you with with something positive. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to what is it, fight fire with fire? Is that what they say?
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that when it comes to that kind of work, or any work actually, whether it's positive or negative, doesn't really matter. The first thing that you have to do is you go to your spirits and see what they say. It's not just, I'm not going to curse somebody because they cut me off in traffic, even though, sometimes you may want to. You know what I mean? Like
a lot.
But there has to be justification there.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like I said, you can't just call them for anything willy-nilly. It's got to be pretty important.
No. It's not, for something insignificant like that,
No. Dirk, Dirk, you had another question?
Oh, that was kind of it. Like if there was, a curse type deals, and if there was, what would the reason for that be? But I think you pretty much clarified it. I mean, you got the good and the bad side of it, and fight fire with fire. I guess explained it good enough.
Well, thank you for calling in, Dirk.
No problem, Jason. Good luck with this show.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you later. Well, I hold stuff off just to get the audience to call in. I wanted to get into curses, and I might as well now. So, doing a curse, I could see you having the ability. I would not want to be the man to piss you off. Having the ability to do it for yourself personally. But do you take clients? They're like, hey, I need you to curse this person. Do you do that for somebody else?
I have, yes, but it always depends, again, on the condition, what's going on. Before I'll even say yes to that, I always go to my spirits first to see, what they say. Because if they say no, then the answer is no.
So you'll tell a client, like, nope, they said no.
Yep, sure will. And
is it about justice? Like, they'll say yes because it's justice that needs to be done because somebody was wronged?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if there's justification that's there for it, and it's not just because, that makes it a little bit different. But any work, whether it's negative work or positive work, I go to my spirits first and see what they have to say.
Well, you hear about them. We don't get political on the show, but you hear about them like, the witches are cursing Trump.
Oh,
so
Lord.
Somebody came to you with something like, I really don't like that Selena Gomez or something. I want you to curse them. You're like, no, you're not going to even ask the spirits. It's got to be something they personally did to you.
It's just that's the equivalent of saying, they cut me off in traffic, so I want something bad to happen to them. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is that people, oh my Lord, people come to me with some of the craziest things I ever heard. For example, I had this woman. This was I don't know, a couple of years ago. She's in Philadelphia, and she called me, and she wanted me to do some work for her. And I said, so when people say that, I ask them, well, what's going on? What's the condition? What's happening? And she told me that she's with a man, and they were, wanting to get married and all this other stuff. But they had about maybe 6 months prior or so, something like that. They had separated for a little while, and while they were separated, the man was seeing another woman, and he ended up getting her pregnant.
Oh boy!
And so she's asking me, she's telling me the story about how he got her pregnant, and the lady's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months pregnant at this point, something like that. And what she wanted me to do was she wanted me to do work so that the woman would miscarry.
Oh man.
And I said, are you serious? I said, are you serious? Are you serious? So I said, what? I said, what did that woman do to you? Y'all were broken up. It's his fault, not hers.
What does she think of you? She thinks you're some kind of she really thinks you're the dark voodoo practitioner to do something like that. That's pretty awful. That's pretty. It's like I'm sure dealing what you do, you probably get some of the Jerry Springer kind of situations.
Absolutely.
Like that. But I'm sure the spirits would tell you you wouldn't even ask that. But I mean, some of these situations, I'm sure the spirits are telling you, no. No.
Oh yeah. It's like, oh no. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that. It's just wow. It's ridiculous.
That's awful. I mean, that's truly awful to want to do to somebody. But that's women. I mean, like I said, just turn on Jerry Springer. If they could grab a voodoo practitioner right there and then and curse the person that's sitting across from them, they would. So I mean, I think it's a good thing we don't have this power. It's only given, or only certain people are able to do it, because I can imagine some of the horrible things if somebody had power like this. That's what I said. There's always good and bad. Do you think there are voodoo practitioners out there that would do that?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Well, in anything, and not just in voodoo, but
well, yeah, not just blaming voodoo. I'm not blaming voodoo.
Yeah, but in anything, there's people that that are unethical. That of course they would do something like that.
Would there be a way though? I mean, would there be a way for them to do that?
Of course there is.
So they have to call on something darker. I'm guessing some spirits that just don't care.
There's a lot involved in it, but yeah.
Oh man. That's pretty to me evil, to wish that upon somebody to lose their child. That's pretty low. I could only imagine your reaction to that. But we do have another phone call on the line here. We got Laura Lee on the phone. How you doing tonight, Laura Lee?
I'm great, thanks, Jason. How are you?
Doing good. Glad you called in.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Hi, Sen. First of all, sending you much love, light, and healing. I'm sorry you're not feeling well.
Oh, thank you. The weather here has been so crazy. I'm getting like a little cold.
Oh, I know that feeling when you're trying to talk. Yeah, I feel for you.
It sounds that way. Well, I'm way up in Canada where it's cold, but I have a question for you about possible familial voodoo or hoodoo curses. The reason why I ask is we've had quite a paranormal situation. Not that I'm asking for help, just in general, because we're talking about curses. And it's really been strongly suggested to me that this may very much be a familial curse. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, how that could happen, or
like cursing a whole family line, Laura Lee, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that 99% of the time I've found that it's not a familial curse, but there is something that needs to be done ancestrally because there was something that was unanswered for. And in those kinds of situations, that's where I would go to ancestors and find out what exactly was going on, what exactly had happened or whatever, and work with your ancestors to get whatever the healing that's necessary to remove that to be. But as far as like a generational curse and that kind of stuff, that 99% of the time is not the case. Typically, it has something to do with something that that happened with an ancestor that needs to be answered for. And what I would do is I would go to my ancestors to find out what that is, and then to handle it from that point.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that because that makes a lot of sense, and that's something I can certainly do. So, thank you. I appreciate you answering that. I hope you're feeling better.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much.
And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Lurley, for calling in. And check out her show.
Happy holidays.
Check out her show. She's on LNM, Angel Rock, and I get the times wrong because of time zone. What's the time your show's on? Monday through Friday.
11. Well, it's actually 10 p.m. Central Time every Monday through Friday in Studio B. So thanks, Jason. I appreciate that.
Everybody go check out her show. All right, Lurley. You have a great night.
You have a great night. You too. Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, the 1% of the time, though, there are sometimes a generational line can be cursed, though. It's rare, but it can happen.
Most of the time, not. It's very, very, very rare. Most of the time, what it is there is some form of like ancestral debt that hasn't been paid.
Yeah.
And that's why, when there are situations like that, the first thing that you do is you always go to your ancestors to find out what's going on, because chances are that's where, that's where it came from.
That makes sense. I mean, you wonder the people, you hate to think that you have to pay for your family's sins, but there's a lot of talk of that in a lot of different religions. As being the case, that you talk about balance.
Right.
We all have our way we got here, and sometimes it wasn't pretty,
Exactly. And like I said, like the best cure for that is to find out what happened and then take it from that point.
Definitely. Now, I'm sure you get, like I said, the kind of the Jerry Springer episodes, like that. But you probably get a lot of stuff to do with relationships and love and all that stuff. I mean,
all the time.
Oh, I bet that's got to be like the number one. Like, oh, that's another one of those kind of things.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but so if somebody comes to you and it's like, I'm totally in love with this person. They know who I am, but barely. Like.
Right, we rode on the same elevator this one time 3 years ago, and I love him.
They want that person, but they're maybe something realistic. It's somebody they know. They want them to notice them, fall in love with them. Do you do that kind of work?
That kind of work, it can be done. Yes. Most of the time with that, what happens is that you would do work to open up those doors. It's not going to be like they drink love potion number 9 and then all of a sudden they're swooning over you. Nothing like that. But again, it's like I said before, you do the your part and then the work does its part. It's about, like with stuff like that, it's more about opening up a door, opening up an opportunity for development of that to happen.
Well, I always thought about like the love spell, the people's ideas of like if there was really a love spell, like you could turn somebody and make them fall in love with you. I always liked the way it would turn out in like Tales of the Crypt, where like you like can't get rid of them, and then now they're stalking you, and like
exactly,
you get what you asked for.
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of times it turns into an obsession type of thing, as opposed to what they're really looking for. I'll give you a story. I had this client from New York, and she came to me, and she she wanted some love work done. She was with she was with a guy for, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years, and they had broken up. They had been broken up for, I think it was 2 years that they had been broken up for, something like that. And and she was all miserable and she wanted him and blah blah blah, as per usual. And so I told her that that I would help her. I told her that I would do the work for her. Well, I did the work for her, and then she got him back, and he after she got him back, then she calls me, like, this was, I don't know, like 6 months after she'd gotten him back. She calls me and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to be with him anymore. I don't." So I told her, I was like, "Well, then why don't you just pack your bags and leave? Because I'm not doing nothing else for you.
Yeah.
You wanted him, you got him. There you go. Enjoy."
Sometimes that's the beauty I love about, like I said, I'm a big Tales of the Crypt fan, and like the old, like magic always goes bad in those kind of stories because people get what they want. They got what they asked for, and,
exactly.
and it turns out that's not what they wanted.
Right.
They're just desserts kind of deal. But for him, I mean, if he truly didn't want to be with her and you worked your magic, would it make him want to be with her?
Say that one more time.
I said if he like didn't want to be with her, like he was like, "Oh yeah, she farts in her sleep. I don't like her. I don't know, whatever reasons he had." I'm saying. But you work your magic. Does that we all have free will, right? I mean, how does that affect? Does
Sure,
it change
we have
him?
free will, but you can change somebody's mind.
Really? That doesn't change the effect of free will.
You can change them. Let's just say that there's things that can be done to change somebody's mind or their idea of what they want or what they don't want.
To me, that's a kind of a scary thought.
And isn't it though?
It's kind of like manipulation. It's still their free will.
They think that it's their free will.
Yeah, but they're just being influenced a little differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
How would somebody know if they were like?
Well,
I mean, how would somebody? What would you? Are there signs to that?
What what somebody's will being influenced?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if all of a sudden their patterns begin to change, and it's not something that they just that they were working or planning on. I mean, you can see like little signs if that's something that's going on.
People around them might start noticing changes, or you might notice, why all of a sudden am I doing this way now? And
exactly, without even realizing it.
He wakes up in the morning and realizes he likes the smell of her farts. I don't know.
Exactly.
But to me, that's a scary thought because, I mean,
right.
to me, you to affect somebody that way is pretty powerful. To change what we like and who we want to be with, that's a pretty powerful thing.
Think about subliminal messaging all around everywhere.
Oh yeah, we know the media's trying to do that to us all the time.
Absolutely, they do it every single day with TV commercials.
Oh yeah, symbolism and the way they do things. Yeah. One of my favorite movies is They Live.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
That people look at signs and say obey. There's a magic in media and marketing for sure. They're
Absolutely,
trying to influence you like that. But what you do this for for people and they ask. I mean, the spirits are like, yeah, sure, we'll do this. You play Cupid in a way.
And in some ways, sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. And sometimes they'll do it because they want something in return. Remember, no work is free.
You spoke about it. You talk about giving food and you said give them a chicken. When you say give them a chicken, is it like the Hollywood thing? Is it like sacrificing a chicken?
Sure.
So I mean, poor chicken. I don't know. PETA must not like you guys. You know what I'm saying? But I understand that. I understand the price has to be paid. It's a not just voodoo. There's a lot of religions that sacrifice of animals. It goes long back in human religion. But so what kind of things call for the chicken? Like, oh, we better get the chicken out. You know, what kind of things are going to have to have that price?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on you know, on what the work is. But sometimes there has to be the shedding of blood, and that's just the way that it is. And I will tell you this: it's done way more humanely than any slaughterhouse in this country. I can assure you.
Oh, those
Number
videos
one.
make me want to be a vegan.
Well, the funny part about it is that people, they get all up in arms about the sacrifice. Number one, we don't waste anything.
Right.
If I do a sacrifice, then, you know, we eat it.
You eat the bird.
Number one. Of course. You know, number two, people get up in arms about it, but yet they go to the grocery store and they get their sacrifices gift wrapped for them when they go to the meat department.
Exactly.
I get my
so
meat humanely.
so like that kind of stuff. I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
I know.
It's just because it's like it's one of those things to where like they didn't have to do it themselves, so you know they don't understand like you know like all the things that you know that actually go on. They don't understand like what you know when it is necessary to do that. Number one, it's done more humanely than, like I said, any of the slaughterhouses. Number two, nothing is wasted, and you know, but I guess the thought of you know of that with you know with a lot of those types of people, just you know they can't deal with it. I don't know.
I've always been interested in the fact of you know, like I said, it goes back to a lot of religions, not every religion, but a lot of religions have required some kind of animal sacrifice.
Sure.
You know, what does the spirit world want with the sacrifice of animals? But there's something there. I mean, because like I said, it's gone back thousands of years. There's some kind of power behind it.
Even
life
in Wicca,
is in the
there's
blood.
a spill of blood.
Yeah, true.
And so the spirit eats the blood, and we eat the body.
That's to me
That's
fascinating.
just as simply put as you know as it can be, because the essence of that blood has life in it.
It's power.
And so
there's a power.
Of course
in that.
it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
You know,
you're not sacrificing a chicken for every ritual. You know, it's
Of
but
course
certain things call for that
Right.
blood sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a chicken, sometimes it's a goat. I don't know. Depends.
It depends. So, but are there rules to that? Like this requires a goat. This ritual we're going to do is going to be a goat. You know, like
Typically, but the spirit could say that they don't want it too.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of make a request, like the spirits are calling for chicken tonight.
Yep.
To me, that's so fascinating. It's like you just wonder what are the mechanics on the other side of the spirits. That's so powerful. The blood is so powerful. You look back to like the ancient, what is it? Was it the Mayans or the the blood sacrifices that they would do? You know, I mean, you look at for the Jewish tradition, they had a sacrifice as well. I mean, there's some kind of immense power in that.
In Wicca, we don't sacrifice, but there are blood rituals that you do together. And I have a dagger, and it's technically your own blood and the blood of your sisters and everything you combine together into your pot or your cauldron. But there's a lot of blood rituals.
Always a lot of bodily fluids involved in this stuff. Seems like. Do you also offer up your own blood at times for rituals?
No.
There's
only very very specific thing that would be done, but no. Whenever we're feeding spirits, if the spirits are getting blood, it's never ours. No.
There's only like one specific occurrence for that.
Correct.
Can you tell us what that occurrence is?
Can't tell you that.
Can't tell. I knew you were going to say that.
Can't tell you that. Mm-mm.
So there are things you have to not divulge. That there are like secrets that you learned.
Of course.
That to me, that's what I see. I mean, when somebody had to bring you into this, you did learn things like that. Do you like keep is that all like just by mouth, like you're taught these things and then you hold it in, or is it actually written down anywhere?
No, it's an oral tradition.
Oral. Okay, that's what
It's an oral tradition.
You sure the slaves weren't writing that down? They couldn't take that kind of chance that they could. Do you think back in the day, during the slave period times, they did? I mean, they had to be really frustrated and living in such horrible conditions that somebody had been tempted to go to one of their slave owners and use some powerful magic against them.
Mm-hmm. How do you think the Haitian Revolution started?
Right. I mean, exactly. So, I mean,
which, by the way, was the only successful slave revolt in history, and they defeated Napoleon's army twice.
And you think a lot of that was like this, just them using the practice of voodoo?
It was a voodoo ceremony that started everything. That started the whole revolution. Mm-hmm.
I did not know that it was. I knew. You know, wow.
Yep.
So you think
certainly
that
was?
You know, that's some powerful stuff to do. But you got to, you know, like I said, you know, that's why I always thought that whatever magic they were doing had to be pretty powerful because had been a lot of emotion behind it because of the desperation and the times they were in.
Exactly. You have people that's dying and being abused in such ways. Then what are you going to do? And that's where, you know, I said, you know, the only thing that they had were their spirits. And so guess what? You know, that's exactly, you know, it comes down to, you know, either my spirits are going to help me or I'm going to die. And that's exactly what it was.
That's incredible. You know, the power of magic to defeat an army.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, that's you know, that's the beauty in it. It gave power to a people that were probably at the time felt so powerless.
Right.
Now, for you personally, have you yourself, for your own personal reasons, like cursed somebody, like or used that kind of, you know, like justice against somebody for yourself personally?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a story on that? The inquiring minds want to know.
Well, there was a person who kept, how you say, in New Orleans, there's a saying that's called throwing a brick and hiding your hand. What that means is, like, people to your face will say one thing, but as soon as you turn around, they're saying, you know, all kind of other things.
Oh yeah.
And so this person was, she was bad mouthing me. Now it's somebody that I knew, and you know, she was going around bad mouthing me, and of course it comes back to me. And so I went to her and I said, hey, I said, do me a favor and keep my name out your mouth. Very simple. I said, you know, the things that you're saying are inaccurate and untrue, and I would appreciate it if you didn't continue to do such things. And then it was, oh, no, I didn't say this, blah, blah, blah. And then she continued to do it. So what did I do was I went and I got a heart, a pig's heart.
Oh, boy.
And I fixed it. And then I had to take a trip to the graveyard and do a couple of things to it over there. And then I let it, nailed it to one of the trees in the graveyard. And so as that heart begins to rot, so does she. And so she started to lose her mind, became a crackhead, and still to this day isn't in her right mind.
Don't piss Moise
that's what happened
off.
in a nutshell.
Don't piss Moise off. That's what I mean. I would not want to piss you off, man. I would not, you know. So, I mean, wow. So, wow. Turn somebody into a crackhead. That's pretty, don't make you mad. You know, I'll turn you into a crackhead. You know,
but that should go without saying. Everybody should be treated with respect, and then you don't have to worry.
Exactly.
Because you never know.
And it's not like you weren't warned.
Exactly.
Somebody had a question in the chat room earlier. I forget who it was, but they wanted to know if like there was a way for somebody that, you know, doesn't have this in their family, it wasn't handed down or anything. Is there a way for somebody to learn?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Most of the time, because these types of works and such are very hands on. Um, like like we take on students and stuff like that. Absolutely, we do. And it's about like basically wanting to understand like the practical applications of things, because here's the thing, and like I said before, like this isn't all about like theories and all this other stuff. It's about actually doing. And so we will we take on students and such, and begin to to teach them things so they can basically begin to walk that path. Sure.
So, in a sense, though, I mean, it doesn't have to be your family. They obviously, if they're coming to you for classes or whatever, they felt a calling to it.
Well, something had to bring them.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, anybody could technically end up doing this if they felt they had the calling for it.
Well, when it comes to magic work, I mean, you still have to have a little bit of magic in you. And it's like I tell people, people, because people get upset when when I say this, but whatever, I don't care. Is that not everybody is called to be a worker? Not everybody is. Anybody can anybody can worship, but not everybody can work in that way. And it goes back to the balance side of things. So let's say that if every single person, let me just back up just a little bit. I firmly believe that that magic workers are born. I don't believe that they're made.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. The reason why is, let's say that every single person on the planet is born to be a doctor. And so everybody on the planet is a doctor. What would happen? We would all die because there'd be no farmers.
Yeah.
Let's say that, everybody on the planet is born to be a farmer. We would all die because there's no doctors. Everybody has their own respective gifts, but not everybody, is going to have the same gifts. They're just not going to, and that's it. Anybody can worship, sure, but not everybody can work.
Well, if everybody was born to be a voodoo priest or priestess, everybody would die because everybody would be cursing each other.
Well,
and we'd be out of pig
yeah,
hearts.
well, the voodoo isn't really about curses, though.
No.
I mean, that's, like I said, it's just that there's a balance in everything.
But
so we have both sides of the coin.
But it seems like it needs responsible parties at hand.
Of course.
The people can't just use it for their whims.
No, and that's the thing, is that you have to be responsible for for what you do, which is why it's important to have relationship with your spirits, because the thing is that guidance and such comes from your spirits. It comes from your godparents, like it comes from your elders. It comes from again, it's all about like learning and growing, and as we continue to do that, then should be that you begin to respond differently than you would like if you were a child. Right. Now, if somebody feels like they might have been cursed, like this woman that turned her crackhead, how would they know? Like, well, things will happen. Things will begin to happen with them. That
like I wake up, I want to start smoking crack.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh man,
could be.
But also like just bad luck. Would it be like string of just bad luck, bad things happen?
Of course, bad luck. You get sick. All kinds of things.
All right. Sure. Well, we're gonna go to a commercial break here. Oh yeah, a lot of people might think they're cursed after hearing that. But
no.
I mean, it depends on how much you want to roll up to being coincidence, or how much you want to roll up to being somebody cursed you.
Mm-hmm.
I think thoughts have pretty powerful things. I think sometimes you can be cursed by people because they just are thinking that negatively towards you.
Of course you can. That's true.
So maybe we come back from this commercial break. We talk about more. You talk about cleansing, but what more people maybe can be able to do to protect themselves from those kind of things. I'm sure you've had to been called for that, to protect people, right? I mean,
sure.
I mean, it's definitely up your line of business. So in that way, do you kind of go head to head with another practitioner?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if somebody did something to somebody else and they come to me to have it taken off, then I take it off.
I was just wondering if you ever like have like kind of a maybe I've read too much Harry Potter, but like a magical war with another voodoo practitioner. You guys are kind of putting your you make your magical move, he makes his magical move. I know I'm silly, but my imagination goes there.
Well, I will say that there is drama like that happens in these communities, which is
Right.
unfortunate, but it's true.
And because humans are humans, I just know humans.
Exactly.
And know that's where it's going to end up leading. We got, like you said, anybody could end up being a good or a bad. That's the balance. You're going to have your bad, voodoo or hoodoo practitioner. You're going to have your good one. And
Right.
those forces might come to a head and fight. Maybe we'll get a little more in that. And guys, you can still call in. The phone lines are open. We have a little bit left of the show. But call in 219-230-4444. Skype IDs JBland JBland Paranormal Soup. Well, hey, actually, no, not the JBland Paranormal Soup. That line's down. Sorry. I don't know why I said that tonight. I forgot that line's down tonight. But you can call in now also at the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. That Skype line should be open too. That's the video one. But call in. Ask your question. We had some really great calls. The lines are still open if you have any. We'll continue talking to Moise here about curses and voodoo. We're getting to the negative stuff. We also want to get back to the positive too. I know there's a lot of stuff he's probably doing that are helping people, like he helped his friend with cancer, what we can do for that. But also, I also want to get into what we can do to protect ourselves from those curses. Because I know some of us sometimes feel like we're cursed. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, egon.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we've been talking to Sen Moise, voodoo priest, hoodoo practitioner, talking about all those things, ancestor worship, curses. This is what we've been talking about. The phone lines are still open if you want to call in, 219-230-4444. There's also the Skype IDs, JBland, or Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. You can call in, ask a question of our guest. Have you experienced, do you think you have been cursed? Maybe Moise can help you understand what's going on. I definitely want to get in tonight about how you can protect yourself from these things. He gave you some ideas about cleansing. What about haunted house too, or living with that? I'm sure hoodoo work could help you in that situation. So call in. Maybe he has some helpful tips for people on that. But let's get back to our guest. Still with us, Moise?
I'm here, yes, indeed.
Now, first, before I get into I wanted to talk a little bit too. We'll get into it as what people can do maybe to help cleanse their homes, because I'm sure you've had people call you for that. But for somebody who thinks they might be cursed, what are some of the things they can personally do to help themselves, or is there nothing? They have to go to somebody like you.
Well, they may have to, but as I said before. Maintaining cleansing on yourself is always a benefit to that. Taking cleansing baths, those are always good things that people can do on the regular to take things off of them that may have either built up or even put on them. So there's the other thing is that they can also have things that for protection and stuff to protect them from it. So it just depends. There's a lot of things that you can do. Some very simple things, like one very simple thing that you can do is take a small mirror and hang it outside above your front door with the mirror facing out so that things will reflect back into it.
Kind of send it back to sender?
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can do is, carry with you. Have a mojo hand made to carry with you. You can wear an evil eye. You can, uh, carry with you like an iron nail. You can, like there's a bunch of things that can be done. It's just a matter, but most importantly, and all that, even with the protection and stuff like that, you still want to make sure that you're maintaining cleansing, because that is, again, one of the most important things that anybody can do ever.
You wonder, for people that are in the spot, like celebrities and that, they can make enemies. How many of them might need that kind of protection or be doing those things?
Sure.
Because you don't know. I mean, you don't know who could be practicing something like this and could put a curse on you. I mean, it's
sure.
I mean, of course, we always go to the dark side on these things. It's hard not to get curious about the dark side of things. And one of the things is people like Laura Lee called in. She's lived in a really extremely haunted house. I'm sure you get calls for that. What are some of the things you do for people that you're trying to cleanse their home?
Well, one of the things that can be done is, first of all, you have to figure out what it is that may be in the house, and is it something that that's malevolent, or is it not? It can be something as simple as having a conversation, and stopping it, or could be something to where you would need to do a full house cleansing. Something simple that you can do if it's just a spirit of the dead is you can take salt water and wash the floors with it. You take salt and you can put it, because salt sends away the dead, you see.
Yeah.
And you can take that and put it like under your bed or wherever that spirit may be concentrated in. But a lot of times folks get afraid, of being in a house that has a spirit in it, when the spirit may not be doing anything wrong.
They're just
you know what I mean?
there.
I mean, well, hell, come to New Orleans, everything is haunted here.
Right, no
So
kidding.
like that's nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. So it just depends. That there would need to be like some sort of like investigation done to figure out what kind of a spirit it is. Is it just a spirit of the dead, or is it something else?
Have you run across doing this work something you felt was malevolent, or was something evil in a location?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then from that point then we take other action.
Yeah, it's going to be more than putting salt on the floor probably to get rid of it.
Oh yes.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, do you guys believe like do you guys because in Christianity they have like demons and stuff like that. Do you guys have certain dark entities that you're aware of in the?
Yeah, well, there are malevolent entities, sure, absolutely. We wouldn't call them demons,
right,
or whatever. But there are malevolent spirits, absolutely. Because I mean, remember, like there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. There's a balance with with everything. It's why you have daytime and nighttime. You have there's two sides to a coin, and like there's a balance in everything. And so I'm not saying that you should welcome malevolent presences in your house, but at the same point in time, getting them out, sure, you can get them out.
Well, some of the people that are maybe into the darker forces of hoodoo or voodoo could probably call on one of these malevolent spirits, though, too, right? And
that is correct.
Power. What are the consequences of doing that for the practitioner, for calling something like that?
It depends. It depends on what the contract is. It depends on what the agreement is.
Well,
what do they want?
Well, I'm a big Supernatural fan. TV show. My son's name's Dean. If that tells you how much of a fan I am.
Oh,
and there's
my
always,
Lord.
Yeah, I'm sure you find so much wrong with that show, but I still enjoy it. But
it's entertaining. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but they always had the crossroad deal. You mentioned crossroads. How based in fact is that? Like the whole crossroads deal with the devil. Because they get back to the old blues musician, Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that spirits can make it. They don't. You don't have to necessarily be in the crossroads to make a deal. You can make deals with spirits almost anywhere. There's different spirits that will help you or not help you with different things, and it's not just the crossroads that's there. That was just that focus at that time. For that show. But yeah, I mean, you can go to the crossroads and work a deal out with a spirit to do something. Sure.
Well,
You can.
the classic Robert Johnson story, if people aren't familiar with the blues magician, is he made a deal with the devil at the crossroads, is the mythology behind it. And, he went from not being a great guitar player or blues musician to like the best, from making that deal, Do you think he made some kind of deal with the spirits?
It's possible. Anything is possible. I mean, with that, he may very well have. I mean, and because like I said, it can be done. And if depending on what that deal is determines what happens. Because like I said, there ain't nothing free. So something is going to cost something. Anything that somebody
the whole
wants
idea
is going
behind
to cost something.
By that story is that it cost him his life. That he got so many years as the best blues musician, but then he's 27 or he was young, and he
like that.
had a brain aneurysm or something, and died. You wonder. You see some of these stars, man. They just come out of nowhere and are super popular, and then they die really young. You wonder if some of them are making deals with devils.
Well, I mean, it could be. The thing is that, yeah, I mean, it can be done, and it's a very real thing. And, I know I wouldn't be trading my life for, 10 years of fame. I wouldn't do all that. But, some people will. And you know what? They have to honor their end of the bargain.
I have to ask, do you think some of these celebrities do make that deal? I really wonder, because
it's possible.
Yeah, some of them I hear their music and I'm just like, it's so bad they had to have made a deal with the devil.
Right.
I forget whether they are. That maybe my music tastes are just old, but I swear some of them, like, how is this popular? They're like super rich and famous, and like, seriously with that, and yeah, a lot of them burn out. They don't fade away. They burn out quick, and be a drug overdose or jail or just ruin. It seems like something catches up to them.
Sure. And that's the thing, is that is that possible? Absolutely, it is. Did they all do it? I have no idea.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
But like those things, contracts and spiritual contracts and stuff, those are real things. They absolutely are.
If somebody came to you and is like, I want to make a contract or a deal, maybe not say with the devil, but because you don't really have the devil, but with the spirits, I want to make a contract to be rich or famous. Would you try to help them make that deal?
Nope.
You try to talk them out of it because they're going to go find somebody else that might, right?
Well, they probably will. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, but I'm going to tell them that that's stupid, and and they don't understand, what the cost of that is. There's, like I said, there's always a price, and depending on what the what that bargain is you're going to have to honor it. So you better be sure with what you're doing.
Speaking of that, I mean, you guys have your own entities. Are there like those kind of dark forces you could make a deal like that with?
Sure.
See, that's, to me, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm just like my audience. I get right to the dark side sometimes because you wonder what kind of contracts people have made out there.
Yeah, of course there are. There's,
like, there's what you wish for.
Again, yes, definitely.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like you can, just like there's good people and there's bad people, there's positive people and there's negative people. On the spiritual side, it's the same thing. You have some that that do positive things, and you have some that do negative things. It's really no different.
Now, you could do something to help somebody in a positive way, like to grow their business or be successful in what they're doing, though.
Sure, absolutely, you can. Absolutely. I mean, again, like when it comes to spiritual work, it doesn't. There's all kinds of things that anybody can do.
Sky's the limit, basically. Now, have you had some people you felt like your work really did do that, like they grew their business or they became really successful off the work you did?
Sure. Of course, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in it.
Did they come back to you and be like, share the love?
What's that?
Do they come back to you and share the love? Because if you did that for me, I'd give you some love.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they have. Of course.
That's going to be a good position to be in.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's again, it goes back to it's a part of what I was born to do. So that's what I do. It's one of those things where, like I said, everybody has different callings and such and different gifts on their life. So, using it to the best of your ability is something that, anyone with no matter what the gift is that they should do.
See, I would have to call you because I want to reach more people with this show. So if I wanted to do that, I would come to you and have to work with you because you see, it partly is the other person has to be involved in it too. You can't just say, oh, like the American way, like here's my money, you go just make that happen for me, okay?
Yeah, exactly. No, Yeah, it's more involved than that,
Oh yeah, and there's a price that still has to be paid too, right? On offering.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course there is. There's always something that's going to have to be given because if you take something, you give something. If you give something, you take something. It keeps things in balance. You see.
Oh yeah, I definitely get that. Now the person that's like wanting their business to grow, or me wanting my audience size to grow, what kind of things do they have to kind of like give to you or give to the spirits?
It depends. It all depends on on what they may want at the time. Because it's not always the thing is that there is not a specific formula for what you're going to give those spirits. They may want one thing today and they may want a different thing for something else.
Oh, so you kind of have to ask the spirits.
Of course.
So you have to go to find out what is it the spirits are asking for this particular situation. Okay, I kind of get that.
Yeah, because every situation is unique in and of itself. I could do, 50 different cleansings and none of them will be the same because everyone's need or everyone's situation is unique. So, you have to those things have to, be catered to whatever, the specific condition with the specific individual it is.
I got you. So, doing this, what are some of the most you think unusual or interesting things you've taken on, as somebody's asked you the most unusual thing they needed you to do?
People have asked me all kinds of crazy things. I mean, there was one time somebody wanted me to turn him into a pig. I swear to God.
What?
That's what he... Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be a pig.
Yep, he wanted to be turned into a pig. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I don't think changing people into farm animals is probably in the power of voodoo, is it? I mean,
sometimes with sometimes things that people ask for, you can't do nothing but shake your head because you're like, are you serious?
What was the reason they wanted to be a pig?
They ask for dumb things.
Why would they want it? What would be the reason they would want to be a pig?
I have no earthly idea. I didn't even get that far in the conversation.
You got far away from it.
Yes,
I would too. Yeah, I mean, you got to get some people that are going to come to you with some, I'm sure you get some people that come to you that are pretty desperate sometimes for something they think they want,
Well, yeah, I mean, they absolutely do, and in situations like that, the thing is that spiritual workers, we're not just workers. We put on a lot of different hats, if you will.
Right.
We play counselor, we play psychiatrist, we play all these different roles. People will come and they'll ask for dumb things, that they really want. And it's about, talking to them and, getting them to understand why that would not be prudent.
Right.
So
like becoming a pig.
Exactly.
But I like I said, you probably weren't going to try to talk that person out of it.
No.
Obviously had a fixation on
Nope. I'd have been like, nope, go somewhere else.
How did you have to refer him somewhere else, like down the street, or how did you get him to leave your shop?
I told him no. I said no, goodbye.
Nope. Right on.
Nope, ain't doing that. Ain't doing that.
Shapeshifter.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. Right.
How old were you when you realized this is like what you were gonna do? I mean,
Well, I've always been doing it, so it was like one of those things to where, like you just kind of do it. I don't know, like there was never like a point where I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. It was like it was just one of those things to where, like I said, being raised in it, it comes, second nature.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just something that you just do. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but you just kind of do it.
Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get people that come to you, I'm sure, and you say you do classes that want to learn how to do that. If somebody is interested in how to do it, where do they start? I mean, where do they go?
Well, the first thing, it depends on if you're talking about root work or if you're talking about voodoo. It's two different places that they would begin. With when it comes to that. The first thing is that if somebody comes to me and they want to learn from me, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a divination. I'm going to do a reading on it to see, because sometimes spirits say no, And if I'm a servant of the spirit, I listen to what they say.
So I'm sure you've had somebody come in and said, the spirit said, this isn't it for you. This isn't your work you're supposed to be doing.
No, I'll tell them that I'm not the one for you. So you go find somebody else.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure you had to turn people away, but the ones you don't, you have classes and they can learn either root work, or they can learn become part of actually a voodoo priest.
Well, it's not. That's a little bit different, but like the voodoo side of things, if they want, if the Loa say yes to initiation, then then yeah. But I got to know the person before any of that happens.
Yeah,
because that's a whole other thing. Because then they got to come to Haiti with me and all that stuff. So
some serious.
That's
business.
a whole. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different ball game.
So it's probably a lot of people could probably get into like root work, learning that stuff, but for voodoo it requires a lot more. You're gonna have really get into the culture of it, and yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. It's like not everybody can go around and become a voodoo priest.
No, it's a different thing. Both of them require commitment, but one of them is a much longer process than like I don't just sit down and teach somebody voodoo.
Right. And if you were taking the Haiti, is there some special ritual or some special place in Haiti people have to go?
Of course. Like that's where we do the initiations is down in Haiti.
Wow.
And it's a 9-day process.
Wow.
So
and how often have you done that with somebody else that you've helped
a lot.
initiate? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I go to Haiti every year. Yeah.
Now the place you go to, is that like have like a historical significance, or is it just a special place you guys have kind of picked out to do the initiation?
No, I have a house down there, and we have all the things that we need there, and that's where we will do them. Mm-hmm.
And you said like what's the name of the spirit that has to choose the person?
Eloah.
Eloah. I'm gonna butcher her names.
That's not a name. That's Loa is many. It's a bunch of different spirits. There's a lot of different Loa.
Yeah, I remember.
Loa is just like what they're called.
But they kind of they're the spirits that have to approve somebody becoming initiated into the practice of voodoo.
They'll say yes or no.
But they in theory could say yes to somebody if they had no family or anything like that. Anybody could, in theory, have them say yes to, right?
The Loa can do what they want, so sure. If they decide, who am I to question it?
Well, one more time, because we're getting towards the end of the show. Tell people about your book, where they can find it, name of the book, and everything. So, because I'm interested, I definitely want to definitely add it to my collection.
The name of the book is called Working Conjure. You can get it anywhere that books are sold. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Books A Million. Any bookstore. You can get it from Amazon. Anywhere. It's published by Wiser Red Wheel Publishing, and so they can, it can be picked up, like I said, anywhere that books are sold.
And for you, do you have people try? Do you give out information for people to try to contact you for doing the work you do?
Yeah, I mean, they can. The easiest way to get a hold of me is through Facebook. They can go to my Facebook page, which is Hoodoo Sen Moise, and they can get a hold of me there. That's usually the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Felt like I learned a lot. I felt like I learned a lot, but I know there's a lot more I could learn about it. I'd love to have you again sometime to talk about this.
All right,
especially if I got to get the book. I want to read the book and learn more. Because, like I said, I've always had an interest in it, but always known there's a lot of misconceptions I've seen being a movie watcher that I am. So yeah, and I've heard, like I said, I've learned things over the years, like, oh yeah, this isn't in voodoo, this isn't real. But it was really great to have you on and get to learn more about it and learn your background. And so thank you.
All right, absolutely, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, that's it for the show. We will be back, not next week. We are going to take course with everybody. We're going to have you, Moise. You have a Merry Christmas. I don't know what you do in your practice for Christmas, but you have a Merry Christmas.
All right,
otherwise.
well, thank you.
Happy holidays.
All right.
But we'll be back December 30th. We're going to take time off for the holiday break. But pay attention to our Facebook page. We'll have some new announcements coming up. We're working on some new stuff for the show. So if you're curious what's going on with Paranormal Soup, make sure you pay attention to our Facebook page. We'll have stuff posted there soon. New stuff coming for Paranormal Soup. So check us out. December 30th is going to be ITC Collective Night. We're going to have Steve Huff on, and we're going to open up the spirit boxes. You can call in and see if the spirits will talk to you. Maybe get them to do some hoodoo for you. Well, we'll see what happens with the spirits on December 30th. You can call in, make contact. Remember, focus on who you want to come through. Don't just call in willy-nilly. Have an idea what spirits you want to come through. Thanks again. Go to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Donate, subscribe. Check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on our Facebook page, YouTube. We will be streaming live simultaneously to Facebook and YouTube soon. Go to our YouTube channel, Paranormal Soup. Subscribe. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great night. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.